Chapter 35:29. Heavenly City, the Great Divine Master shook his head and smiled bitterly. Divine Master, I'm not sure about this either. Shinrue's team had just entered the Wandering Galaxy when they met with a mishap. Even I just learned about it. Isn't He Jiao still alive? Didn't you ask him? The Divine Master's eyes were cold. The Great Divine Master's expression was unnatural as he said, He Jiao didn't answer me. I'm guessing that he betrayed us. The reason why Shinrue met with a mishap so quickly is probably because of He Jiao's involvement. You mean that He Jiao colluded with the natives of the Wandering Galaxy? Did He Jiao lose his mind? Doesn't he know that with the strength of our Golden Corner Starry Skyland, sooner or later, we will conquer Wandering Starry Skyland? The Divine Master felt surprised. Actually, I don't quite understand it either. After all, this explanation is the most reasonable. Perhaps He Jiao was subdued by the Wandering Galaxy's experts and was forced to participate in the extermination of Shinrue's team. The Great Divine Master said in a deep voice, Humph, I don't care if He Jiao was forced or not. Send another vanguard team to capture that traitor He Jiao. Also, have you thought of a way to solve the teleportation formation that leads to the Wandering Galaxy? It can only teleport a dozen people at a time. It's too slow. If all of our Golden Corner Galaxy's troops were to be teleported there, it would take too long and alert the enemy. The Divine Master said in a deep voice. The Great Divine Master cupped his hands and said respectfully, Rest assured, Divine Master, I'm currently researching a teleportation formation that can teleport thousands of people at once. It should be completed within 100 years. However, I'm afraid that the Vanguard team can't be sent out in a short time. I've already dismantled the teleportation formation that leads to the Wandering Galaxy, and I'm currently researching it. If I rearrange it, it will delay the research time. The Great Divine Master looked troubled as he said this. Then forget it. After you've successfully researched a large-scale teleportation formation, we'll send an army to the Wandering Galaxy and occupy it directly. He Jiao, that traitor, is just a fish on the chopping board. The Divine Master didn't mind, and he allowed the Great Divine Master to continue his research. After some encouragement, he disappeared from the screen. The Demon Domain's territory was extremely vast. When Zhuowen entered the Demon Domain, he was stopped by the Demon Race's guards. After Zhuowen took out several high-grade, Heavenly Dao origin crystals, he didn't even need to check his identity and easily entered the Fiend Domain. After entering the Demon Domain, Zhuowen's eyes were filled with confusion. The Demon Realm originally had 8 heavens, but when he entered the Demon Realm, he couldn't see any traces of the 8 heavens. Originally, the 8 heavens were separated by a certain distance and had their own camps with a large number of restrictions and guards at the borders. But now, the 8 heavens had completely merged into one. There were no longer any borders or hostility like before. After the Demon Realm was unified, the living beings of the previous 8 heavens had been completely demonized, becoming true demons. Of course, the appearance of the so-called Demon Clan was closer to that of the Human Clan, but a part of their bodies would retain traces of the Demon Clan. There was once a saying that when the Demon Clan was in the primitive heavenly domain, they were a large clan on par with the Shaman Clan, and the Human Clan was only a branch of the Demon Clan. But the Human Clan's talent was too strong, and their reproduction speed surpassed that of the Demon Clan and the Shaman Clan. So the Human Clan's development speed was extremely fast, surpassing the Demon Clan and the Shaman Clan in an instant, and finally separated from the primitive heavenly domain. It was because of this origin that sometimes it was difficult to distinguish between the Human Clan and the Demon Clan based on appearance. However, the Demon Clan had a unique demonic aura that the Human Clan didn't have. To distinguish between the human clan and the demon clan, one just had to distinguish whether the person had demonic aura. Although there were many human clan members who came to trade in the demon domain, there were quite a number of them. But the human clan was not the demon clan, and it would be too abrupt for him to enter the demon domain as a human clan member. Fortunately, Zhuowen's primordial chaos technique was very extraordinary, and it had the ability to imitate aura. So when Zhuowen entered the demon domain, he had already used the primordial chaos technique to imitate demonic aura. The primordial chaos technique's imitation effect was flawless. Even a fifth blight expert wouldn't be able to tell that the guy with the overwhelming demonic aura was actually a human clan member. After entering the demon domain, Zhuowen quickly found out that the demon domain's core city was the demon divine heavenly city. It was the demon domain's largest and most important city. Most of the demon domain's strongest experts were gathered here, and it was the demon domain's sacred ground. And the demon Saint Dong Huang Tai presided over the demon divine heavenly city. 3 days later, Zhuowen arrived at the demon divine heavenly city without stopping. After paying enough heavenly law origin crystals, Zhuowen smoothly entered the city. It had to be said that the demon divine heavenly city was indeed huge and magnificent. It was comparable to the shaman clan's shaman god city, and was even bigger and more luxurious. Most of the people in the demon divine heavenly city were from the demon clan, but there were also a few humans and other races from the primitive heavenly domain. Zhuowen had never seen a city like this with so many races mixed together before. After all, whether it was the primitive heavenly domain or the Xianmi heavenly domain, the people living in the corresponding cities were basically their own clansmen. Lord, you've also come to the demon divine heavenly city? Suddenly, a pleasantly surprised voice rang out. Zhuowen turned his head to look and discovered a pretty young girl hastily running over. Zhuowen revealed a surprised expression. He really did know this girl. She was one of the members of the caravan that he had met in the heavenly moat. At that time, the caravan's leader, Lu Chengfeng, had specially introduced this girl. Her name seemed to be Li and she was Lu Chengfeng's granddaughter. Li arrived in front of Zhuowen, very happy. At the same time, she didn't dare to get too close to Zhuowen. Back then, in the heavenly moat, the terrifying scene of Zhuowen fighting the black dragon was still vivid in her mind. She knew that this youth who didn't look very eye-catching was actually a terrifying, half-step heaven-breaking realm powerhouse. This kind of powerhouse, even in the demon divine heavenly city, was also a pinnacle powerhouse. He could completely do whatever he wanted in the demon divine heavenly city. Li's small actions were seen by Zhuowen, but he didn't mind and just smiled faintly. At the same time, he also noticed that there was a group of people following behind Li. The most conspicuous person in this group was a hook-nosed youth in the lead. This hook-nosed youth's eyes were filled with ruthlessness, and his body was surging with killing intent. One look, and one could tell that this kind of terrifying, murderous aura could only be produced by fighting all year round. Li, who is he? The hook-nosed youth took a step forward, deliberately getting close to Li, and then looked at Zhuowen with a rather unfriendly gaze. Li's beautiful eyes revealed a trace of fear. She was clearly rather fearful of the hook-nosed youth. This lord is Chapter 3530. Bailey Choling. Oh, so that's how it is. You are Thunderbolt trading firm a life. Your cultivation is not bad. Be this young master's lackey. Don't worry, I won't mistreat you, the hook-nosed youth said coldly. When Zhuowen used the primordial mantra to simulate the demonic qi, he had also concealed his cultivation base. The cultivation base he displayed now was only that of an early-stage Genesis lord. The hook-nosed youth was young, but his cultivation base was not bad. He had already reached the creation lord level. Furthermore, the guards behind the hook-nosed man were even more impressive. They were basically all Empyrean lords, and the strongest of them was an azure-robed old man who was already at the mid-stage Empyrean lord realm. This hook-nosed youth's status in the Thunderbolt trading firm was not low. One had to know that the leader of the caravan, Lu Chungfeng, was only a peak Genesis lord. It was said that he had some status in the Thunderbolt trading firm. However, looking at this hook-nosed youth's lineup, Lu Chingfeng's cultivation base and status really did not amount to much. It was no wonder that Li was afraid of this hook-nosed youth. Answer me. The hook-nosed youth saw that Zhuowen was deep in thought and did not answer him. His face instantly darkened, and his voice became somewhat sharp and cold. Zhuowen looked indifferently at the hook-nosed youth. He did not want to cause trouble, but he also did not intend to become this hook-nosed youth's lackey. Sorry, I don't intend to join any faction. As he spoke, Zhuowen beckoned Li to follow him. He had a feeling that Li was being forced to follow this hook-nosed youth. Li looked at the hook-nosed youth, whose expression was getting uglier and uglier. She was very worried, but she also knew that if she wanted to get rid of this hook-nosed youth, she could only follow Zhuowen. She knew very well what kind of powerhouse Zhuowen was. Being able to obtain his protection was definitely a blessing that she had cultivated in her previous life. Thinking of this, Li gritted her teeth and followed Zhuowen. Li are you rebelling? How dare you follow an ant that does not belong to any faction? You have to know that if I want to crush this ant to death, I only need to wave a finger. When the hook-nosed youth saw that Li actually wanted to leave with Zhuowen, he finally exploded. Several of his subordinates behind him immediately blocked Zhuowen's path. What? You want to fight? Within the Demon Sage Heavenly City, it is clearly stated that no one is allowed to act on their own accord. Otherwise, they will be killed without mercy. Zhuowen turned around and looked indifferently at the hook-nosed youth. Kill without mercy? What a joke. Let me tell you, rules are dead, but people are alive. These rules only apply to you ants with no background. I am the young master of one of the 4 great trading companies, Thunderbolt Trading Company. If I want to kill someone in Demon Divine Heavenly City, why would I need to explain? The hook-nosed young man sneered. Soon after, he said sinisterly, "Take down these 2 people and kill the man immediately. Take Li first. I want to take her back and enjoy her first before killing her." "Oh, right. Li, you made me very unhappy. Your grandfather, Lu Chungfeng, has to die too. When the time comes, I'll let him be buried with you. The 2 of you will have a companion when you go to the Yellow Springs." At this moment, many onlookers gathered around. But when they discovered that the person in charge was Thunderbolt Trading Company's young master, Lei Lingyun, they discussed in low voices, their eyes revealing fear. Clearly, Thunderbolt Trading Company was very influential in this Demon Divine Heavenly City. "Yo, isn't this young Master Lei? Why are you so angry?" Suddenly, a crisp female voice with a hint of mockery slowly came over. Zhuowen could not help looking over. He saw that not far away, a group of several dozen people strolled over in a grandiose manner. The person in the lead was a woman with a heroic aura. Although this woman was not considered gorgeous, she was also extremely pleasing to the eye. Especially the heroic aura emitting from her body gave her a unique charm. Li shrank beside Zhuowen and quietly introduced, "Sir, this is the young master of Spirit Phoenix Trading Company, one of the 4 great trading companies, Bailey Chioling. His status is not inferior to Lei Lingyun at all." Zhuowen nodded. Li had long quietly told him the status of the four great trading companies in the demon realm. According to Li, in the demon realm, apart from the demon Saint Palace, the most powerful forces were these four great trading companies. Moreover, behind these four great trading companies were secretly supported by half-step heaven-breaking realm powerhouses. Zhuowen was somewhat surprised. The demon realm was one of the three great regions, along with Xianmi Heavenly Domain and Primitive Heavenly Domain. There were no half-step heaven-breaking realm powerhouses in Xianmi Heavenly Domain and Primitive Heavenly Domain, but there were actually more than one in the demon realm. But soon, Zhuowen realized that it was not that the Xianmi Heavenly Domain and the untainted Heavenly Domain did not have any experts half a step to the heaven-breaking realm, but such experts had all entered the heaven-accessing place. And the demon realm's half-step heaven-breaking realm powerhouses clearly did not enter the heaven-reaching secret realm. After all, the demon realm's establishment time was seriously too short and could be considered completely independent. The majority of the half-step heaven-breaking realm powerhouses here stayed in the demon realm. Moreover, Zhuowen guessed that the number of half-step heaven-breaking realm powerhouses in the demon realm should be extremely few. Furthermore, the majority should be powerhouses who survived from ancient times. There were probably no newly advanced half-step heaven-breaking realm powerhouses. Lei Lingyun frowned. He looked at Bailey Chioling, who was slowly walking over, and said in a solemn voice, "Bailey Chioling, this is our family matter. Could it be that you also want to poke a foot into it?" The corners of Bailey Chioling's mouth curled slightly, and she waved her hand and said, "Lei Lingyun, of course I won't interfere in your family matters. But you also know my personality. I like beautiful women. The purer the beauty, the more I like it." Speaking up to here, Bailey Chioling looked at Li, who was curled up beside Zhuowen, and said, "I came today for the beauty. This little beauty is so pure and lovely, I want her." Lei Lingyun's face darkened, and he said coldly, "Bailey Chioling, you damn pervert. Li is my Thunderbolt Trading Company's member, not your Spirit Phoenix Trading Company's member." Bailey Chioling smiled faintly and said, "A high-grade, heavenly Tao origin vein. I want to buy this lovely person." Lei Lingyun was stunned. He did not expect that this Bailey Chioling was so rich and overbearing to actually directly use a high-grade, heavenly Tao origin vein to buy a woman. This was seriously too extravagant. "Fine. If you really give me a high-grade, heavenly Tao origin vein, Li is yours." Lei Lingyun was not a fool. Although he was lustful, he also knew the severity of the matter. A high-grade, heavenly Tao origin vein's value far surpassed Li herself. And if he wanted women, it was seriously too easy. There were plenty of women. If this Li did not want, then he did not want. Li's complexion was deathly pale. She did not expect that Lei Lingyun would actually sell her out just like this, and did not even consult with her personal opinion. This is a transfer token. In the northeast direction of the demon region, there's a high-grade, heavenly Tao origin vein. It's your Thunderbolt Trading Company's now, and this little beauty is mine. Bailey Chioling threw a token to Lei Lingyun very forthrightly. Lei Lingyun received the token. After confirming that there was no mistake, he had people bring Li away and hand her over to Bailey Chioling. "Have you all consulted Li's opinion?" Zhuowen's gaze was calm, his indifferent voice coming out. But Lei Lingyun burst into laughter and said mockingly, "Who the hell do you think you are? You're going to be a dead man right away, still making random noise in front of me. You really think that you're somebody?" Speaking up to here, Lei Lingyun's gaze immediately became fierce. He said coldly, "What are you all still watching for? Directly take her down." Chapter 35-31. Scared, silly Lei, Lingyun brought 5 people this time. Among them, were initial stage Heavenspan lords, while the remaining old man was middle stage Heavenspan lord, the highest cultivation among the 5. Now, the ones surrounding Zhuowen and Li were 4 of them, while that old man had his hands behind his back, standing not far away, watching indifferently. Clearly, he had no intention of interfering. Although Li looked timid, she was very calm in her heart. She knew Zhuowen inside out, and knew that Zhuowen's strength was terrifying. Among those present, there was really no one who was his match. Bang! 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 The 4 subordinates of the Thunderbolt trading firm all made their moves and rushed towards Zhuowen. Of course, they did not join forces to deal with Zhuowen. The attacks they blasted out were also extremely casual. They were humiliating Zhuowen, not taking Zhuowen seriously at all. The reason why they all attacked was merely to deal with Lei Lingyun's orders. Zhuowen's gaze was calm. He neither dodged nor defended, but stood in place, not moving at all. Ha! Looks like this kid was scared silly. Lei Lingyun could not help laughing loudly when he saw Zhuowen's performance. His expression could be said to be exaggerated to the extreme. Not far away, the heroic Bailey Chioling also secretly shook her head, her beautiful eyes revealing a trace of disdain. She already determined that Zhuowen was a good-for-nothing coward. At the same time, Bailey Chioling was also somewhat worried that the aftermath of the battle would hurt Li. The 4 people's attacks all landed on Zhuowen, but Zhuowen still did not move. A special energy surged around him, spreading out and pouring into the surrounding 4 people's bodies. Bang! 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 Instantly, those 4 people's bodies all exploded into bloody mists. They did not even have time to let out a scream before their divine souls and physical bodies were completely destroyed. At this moment, the brilliant smile on Lei Lingyun's face suddenly froze, only to see Lei Lingyun stare with wide eyes, looking at this scene in disbelief. His 4 initial stage Heavenspan realm guards fell just like that. As for Zhuowen, who was being attacked, he didn't do anything. He just stood there, without moving. This was simply too strange. I'll deal with him. The old man who was standing not far away to watch the show also had a serious look in his eyes. He also had some doubts about what had just happened and wanted to try it himself. In an instant, the old man appeared in front of Zhuowen and threw out a punch. Space and time exploded, and the surrounding laws seemed to be thrown into chaos by this punch. However, the old man soon realized that something was wrong. The moment his fist landed on Zhuowen's body, it was as if time had stopped. His fist could not advance any further. At the same time, a mysterious and powerful force spread out from Zhuowen's body and entered his body through his fist. As soon as this energy entered his body, it began to wantonly destroy his internal organs and meridians. Even if he continuously stimulated the heavenly energy in his body, it was completely useless. In front of this energy, the heavenly energy was as weak as tofu. These 2 types of energy were not on the same level at all. What kind of power is this? The old man barely managed to ask this question. His body exploded into clouds of blood mist, and his body and soul were destroyed. What the hell is going on? Lei Lingyun sat on the ground, his face full of horror. These 5 guards were specially sent by his father to protect him. They were considered elite experts in the Thunderbolt trading firm. Under the protection of these 5 guards, he would not be in any danger. This was because even if a late stage or peak stage Heavenspan Realm Master came, they would not be able to take down these 5 guards in a short time. But now, his 5 guards had mysteriously fallen, and the culprit didn't seem to have moved at all. This was too strange. Bailey Chioling, who was originally watching the show, looked at Juoan with her beautiful eyes in shock. She also saw the scene just now, and she only felt that it was completely unbelievable. Those were 5 heaven-span realm masters. How could they die so cleanly in front of her? Wasn't this too casual? Although Bailey Choling didn't know the details, she was no fool. She knew that the deaths of the 5 heaven-span realm masters must have something to do with Juoan. Did you just say that I'm going to be a dead man soon? Juoan asked. His gaze fell on Lei Lingyun, a faint smile tugging at the corners of his mouth. In Lei Lingyun's eyes, this smile was full of mockery. Lei Lingyun's body stiffened. Just as he was about to speak, a terrifying aura suddenly came from the depths of Demon Divine Sky City. A figure hurried over and landed between Juoan and Lei Lingyun in the blink of an eye. It was a man clad in bronze armor and a bronze helmet. His entire face was covered by the helmet, only revealing a pair of cold eyes. The man's cultivation was extraordinary. He'd reached the peak of the heavenspan realm. His entire body was suffused with a terrifying demonic aura that seemed to break through the heavens. This was definitely a terrifyingly powerful monster spirit. Who's so gutsy, actually daring to kill people in Demon Divine Sky City? The man's divine perception was very sensitive. He detected that there were people dying around him at a glance. Moreover, it wasn't just one person. The man in bronze armor glanced at Juoan coldly. He could tell at a glance that the one who killed was this man in front of him. However, everything had to be based on evidence. Therefore, he did not question Juoan the moment he arrived. Instead, he cupped his hands at Bailey Choling and Lei Lingyun. Miss Bailey, Mr. Lei, do you know who was the one who made a move just now? Our Demon Divine Sky City forbids private fights. It's a clear rule. No one can violate it. As a law enforcer, I'll definitely enforce the law impartially, the man in bronze armor said in a deep voice. Bailey Choling's beautiful eyes swiveled around. She deliberately raised her head and did not look at the man in bronze armor, looking like it had nothing to do with her. She was very smart. From the strength Juoan displayed just now, she could conclude that this person was very likely a half-step heaven-breaking tier elite. This person did not even make a move, and 5 heaven-breaking tier cultivators died, just like that. Among them, there was even a mid-stage heaven-breaking tier elite. This kind of method, even peak heaven-breaking tier elites did not have. Only legendary half-step heaven-breaking tier elites could possibly do it. She would not take the initiative to provoke such an elite. On the contrary, Bailey Choling began to think about how to build a good relationship with such an elite. Meanwhile, Lei Lingyun was completely frightened. If Bailey Choling could guess that Juoan was a half-step heaven-breaking tier elite, he naturally also thought of it. He secretly groaned in his heart. How could he randomly provoke a half-step heaven-breaking tier elite? This kind of elite was high and mighty in the demon realm and could not be offended. And their thunder-bearing trading company was extremely powerful and famous in the demon realm. However, they only had one half-step heaven-breaking tier elite. This kind of elite was not someone he could casually offend. If the patriarch of the thunder-bearing trading company knew that he had caused such a big trouble, he would probably be done for. Lei Lingyun was cursing Juoan in his heart. You're such a badass elite. Why did you hide your cultivation level? Pretending to be a pig to eat a tiger? This really screwed him over. Seeing that Bailey Choling and Lei Lingyun were silent, the man in bronze armor frowned slightly. He did not ask anymore, and instead looked at Juoan and said indifferently, "Did you kill those 5 people just now?" Chapter 35-32. Golden Cicada, Shedding Talisman. Who do you think you are? Thunderbolt Trading Company is one of the 4 great trading companies of the demon realm, and it has a large business. How could it knowingly break the law? It must be you who initiated the provocation and even attacked to kill. You can plead guilty and come with me. The man in azure armor said proudly. He had only seen Lei Lingyun's 5 subordinates being killed by Zhuowen, but he didn't know the specific cultivation of those 5 subordinates. In addition, Zhuowen's current aura was very ordinary, so he subconsciously thought that Zhuowen was only a loose cultivator without any background. He had been an enforcer for so many years and received many benefits from the 4 great trading companies. Many of the things that the 4 great trading companies violated the rules, he tacitly approved, and was biased towards the people of the 4 great trading companies. And this time was no exception. What if I say I don't go? Zhuowen's eyes revealed coldness. This man in azure armor was so domineering, wanting to take him away, without distinguishing between right and wrong. This was a bit too biased, wasn't it? Don't go. That's not up to you. The man in azure armor sneered, and suddenly grabbed out with his right hand. A powerful palm shot out, grabbing at Zhuowen's neck, obviously wanting to grab Zhuowen's neck. Puchi. But soon, the man in azure armor discovered that his right hand was easily grabbed by Zhuowen, and then a terrifying power came, and his right hand directly collapsed into a bloody mist. You're a half-step breaking heaven-tier elite. The man in azure armor covered his injured right arm, his forehead full of cold sweat, and looked at Zhuowen with a deathly pale face. He finally understood why Bailey Chioling and Lei Lingyun both remained silent. This young man in front of him was actually pretending to be weak, and his true cultivation was actually a half-step breaking heaven-tier elite. This was too shocking. Now you still want to take me away? Zhuowen's voice was very cold, and instantly made the man in azure armor feel as if he had fallen into an ice cellar. He hurriedly knelt and straightforwardly begged for mercy. This was a legendary, half-step, shattering heaven realm powerhouse. In the entire demon region, such a powerhouse was also as rare as phoenix feathers and Qilin horns. Moreover, a half-step breaking heaven-tier elite had many privileges in the demon Saint Heavenly City, and he had offended such an elite. Even if he was killed, it would serve him right. The demon Saint Palace would not step in for him. After all, a cultivator half a step into the heaven-shattering tier couldn't be offended, and if one took the initiative to offend him, they deserved to die. Scram, Zhuowen said coldly. For this green-armored man to be able to become the enforcer of the Demon Saint Heavenly City, he was most likely an important person in the Demon Saint Palace. And this time, Zhuowen did not come to the Demon Saint Palace to start a feud, but to meet with the Demon Saint Palace's Saintess. Furthermore, there was another reason why Zhuowen had let the green-armored man go, and that was to have him report back to the Demon Sage Palace. The sudden appearance of an unfamiliar elite suspected to be half a step into the heaven-breaking realm in Demon Divine, Heavenly City, would definitely attract the attention of Demon Divine Palace. At that time, the upper echelons of Demon Divine Palace would definitely come looking for him. And when he did, he would naturally be able to step into the Demon Sage's palace. "Thank you, my lord!" The green-armored man thanked him profusely and immediately fled in terror. "My lord!" Just now, Lingyun was blind and did not know that my lord was actually half a step into the heaven-breaking realm. My lord can punish Lingyun however you want, as long as you spare Lingyun's life. Lei Lingyun knelt on the ground with a thump under everyone's astonished gazes, and said with a trembling voice. Zhuowen looked calmly at Lei Lingyun. This Lei Lingyun was vicious and merciless, arrogant and domineering, and had no mercy in his heart. Li did nothing, just because she wanted to go with him. He tortured Li to death, and even wanted Lu Chengfeng to be buried with her. Zhuowen loathed such a heartless person in his heart. He had to kill this Lei Lingyun without a doubt. Lei Lingyun felt the killing intent in Zhuowen's eyes. He decisively took out a jade talisman and tore it apart. His entire person turned into a golden light and disappeared on the spot. It's actually the golden cicada shedding talisman. This Lei Ming really valued Lei Lingtian enough, even leaving such a precious escape talisman, to Lei Lingtian. Bailey Chioling muttered to herself, a hint of shock in her beautiful eyes. Zhuowen frowned. That golden cicada shedding talisman was indeed extraordinary. After Lei Lingtian activated it just now, he actually completely could not capture Lei Lingtian's aura, resulting in Lei Lingtian escaping just like that. However, Zhuowen did not mind either. Lei Lingtian's debt, he would definitely settle it. When the time came, he would personally make a trip to the Violent Thunder Trading Company. This one is Spirit Phoenix Trading Company's Bailey Chioling. Greets my lord. May I know my lord's esteemed name? Bailey Chioling came forward to curry favor, her beautiful eyes full of fervor, and at the same time, there was also thick reverence. I remember that you wanted to buy my friend just now. Zhuowen did not answer Bailey Chioling, but changed the topic. Bailey Chioling's heart suddenly skipped a beat. She hurriedly took out a token and said, "My lord, calm your anger. I was just joking just now. This is the transfer token of a high-grade Heavenly Tao origin crystal vein in the northwest of the Demon region. Take it as Chioling's apology for joking just now." Zhuowen did not stand on ceremony, putting away the token with a clear conscience, secretly sighing in his heart that this Bailey Chioling was really rich and overbearing. This girl had just given Lei Lingyun a high-grade Heavenly Tao origin crystal vein just now, and now she could actually take out another one. This wealth was really unparalleled. Seeing Zhuowen accept the token, Bailey Chioling breathed a sigh of relief, and then said enthusiastically, "My lord, our Spirit Phoenix Trading Company is one of the 4 great trading companies in the Demon region. If my lord has the time, you can come to our Spirit Phoenix Trading Company's headquarters for a visit. This is our Spirit Phoenix Trading Company's headquarters entry token. As long as my lord wants to come to the Spirit Phoenix Trading Company, you can smoothly enter the Spirit Phoenix Trading Company with this token. At that time, Chioling will definitely entertain my lord well." Zhuowen accepted Bailey Chioling's token as well. Even though he didn't intend to go to the Spirit Phoenix Trading Company, he couldn't refuse since Bailey Chioling was so enthusiastic. "Miss Bailey, I still have some matters to attend to at the Thunderbolt Trading Company, so I won't stay here any longer. Farewell." Zhuowen cupped his hands towards Bailey Chioling, and then he brought Li and walked towards the Thunderbolt Trading Company's headquarters. Even though he didn't know the location of the Thunderbolt Trading Company's headquarters, Li knew. She was a member of the Thunderbolt Trading Company, after all. Looking at Zhuowen's departing figure, the smile on Bailey Chioling's face vanished. "Miss, this person is going to get even with the Thunderbolt Trading Company." A middle-aged man beside Bailey Chioling said with a solemn expression, "This person is too arrogant. Even though he's also a half-step Heaven Breaker stage expert, the Thunderbolt Trading Company also has one. Moreover, the Thunderbolt Trading Company's headquarters is covered in layers of restrictions. If this person enters the Thunderbolt Trading Company alone, then I'm afraid he won't be able to leave." Another old man echoed. The subordinates beside Bailey Chioling spoke one after another, and they'd basically already sentenced Zhuowen to death. They felt that Zhuowen overestimated his ability and actually went to barge into the Thunderbolt Trading Company alone. "This person is indeed conceited. I'll go back and report to the ancestor. If possible, I'll ask the ancestor to save this person's life. Then this person will be deeply grateful to our Spirit Phoenix Trading Company, and it's even possible for him to join our Spirit Phoenix Trading Company." Chapter 35-33. The divine horn protector inside the demon Saint Palace. In a magnificent palace, a green-armored man knelt on the ground, trembling. In front of the green-armored man stood an old man in a long robe. This old man had very small horns on his head, and his expression was cold. His entire body was filled with extremely terrifying demonic chi. The demonic chi on this old man's body was really too terrifying. The entire palace seemed to be about to collapse under the influence of this demonic chi. The green-armored man knelt there, not daring to say a word. He didn't even dare to look at this old man. This was because he knew that this long-robed old man in front of him was an important figure in the demon Saint Palace. He was the divine horn protector, ranked second among the 5 protectors of the demon Saint Palace. The divine horn protector's cultivation was extremely terrifying. It was said that he had already reached the peak of the 3rd blight and was second only to the demon saint and the great protector. His reputation and status were extremely high. You're saying that you met a half-step heaven-breaking realm elite in the demon Saint Heavenly City, and it's a lone cultivator? The divine horn protector's back was facing the green-armored man. His voice was calm and carried an unquestionable tone. The green-armored man's heart trembled slightly, and he nodded in agreement. And you even threatened to capture him, and even attacked him? The divine horn protector continued, his voice carrying a trace of tyranny. The green-armored man's entire body trembled, and he could only brace himself and agree. Bang! A terrifying force swept over, and the green-armored man directly spat out a mouthful of blood. He flew backward and crashed heavily onto the ground. Lord Protector, please spare my life. At this moment, the divine horn protector had already turned around, and his gaze was very cold as he stared at the green-armored man. The green-armored man's hair stood on end, and his body kept twitching and spasming due to the intense pain. Humph! You dare to provoke a half-step heaven-breaking realm elite, and you even use the name of the demon Saint Palace. You're simply a disgrace to my demon Saint Palace. Break your remaining arm and find that fellow cultivator. Then you can go and ask for punishment. If you can't get that fellow cultivator's forgiveness, then choose to kill yourself. Otherwise, you'll see what I can do. The divine horn protector's voice was very calm, but his deep eyes contained terrifying killing intent. It was as if this pair of eyes from hell. The green-armored man was so scared that he bent down. The God Horn enforcers were in charge of the law enforcement in the demon Saint Palace. Their methods were extremely cruel. Even though he was a peak master, he was still afraid of the God Horn enforcers' methods. Pucci, the green-armored man decisively, and was his forehead covered in cold sweat of his body. This subordinate is translation. It's just that this subordinate doesn't know where that lord is now. The green-armored man endured the pain and said in a low voice, Is translation star? Is translation 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 is horn translation? Is translation. Moreover, the Violent Thunder Trading Company has set up a half-step heaven breaker great formation. If this person barges in, I'm afraid that the odds are stacked against him. Lord, is to die? Is Lord, is his translation? Why do I have to apologize to a dead man? The green-armored man couldn't help but blurt out, Idiot! Half-step shattering heaven realm powerhouses are highly sought after wherever they go. Our demon Saint Palace is no exception. When this person is in danger in the Thunderbolt trading firm, I will show up and you will apologize. That fellow cultivator will not lower himself to deal with you, and he will be grateful to our demon saint palace. At that time, he will join our demon saint palace. The divine horn guardian said calmly. Lord Protector is wise. The azure-armored man let out a light sigh of relief. From the words of the divine horn protector, he was able to discern that the latter intended to protect him, and at the same time rope in that half-step heaven-shattering realm-independent cultivator. As for his severed arms, all he had to do was consume a bit more of his origin energy, and he would be able to recover them smoothly. As long as he didn't lose his life, this was a small matter. Follow me to the Thunderbolt trading firm. The divine horn protector's eyes were like torches. He waved his right hand and grabbed the green-armored man. Then, with a leap, he disappeared from the spot, while the divine horn guardian led the man in azure armor to the Thunderbolt trading firm. The ancestor of the Spirit Phoenix trading firm led several people, including Bailey Choling, to the Thunderbolt trading firm. At this moment, the Thunderbolt trading firm was in a state of panic. The atmosphere in the originally calm Thunderbolt trading firm had become very solemn at this moment. Moreover, the only half-step heaven-shattering realm formation in the Thunderbolt trading firm had also been activated. Looking from afar, one could see that the Thunderbolt trading firm occupied a large area that was shrouded in a misty cloud, and it was impossible to see clearly inside the Thunderbolt trading firm. Except for a few higher-ups who had gone out to do things, almost all of them were gathered in the meeting hall. The current president of the Thunderbolt trading firm, Lei Ming, sat at the head of the table with a solemn expression. Lei Ming's aura was very vast. Earth chi surged in his nostrils, and with a whoosh, it formed two white chi dragons. Lei Ming was a peak heaven-shattering realm expert, and he wasn't an ordinary peak heaven-shattering realm expert. Lei Lingyun sat in an inconspicuous position below, his head drooping, his expression dispirited and fearful. He knew that he had made a big mistake. President, what's going on? Why did you summon us in such a hurry and even activate the formation in the trading firm? In the meeting hall, the higher-ups were all shocked and bewildered when they saw Lei Ming being so cautious. They all had a premonition that something big was about to happen. Lei Ming glared fiercely at Lei Lingyun, and then said in a deep voice, Lingyun accidentally provoked a half-step heaven-shattering realm expert in the demon divine heavenly city. As soon as these words came out, the entire meeting hall was as noisy as a frying pan. What? Half-step heaven-shattering realm expert? What's going on with young Master Lei? He actually provoked such an expert? Isn't this causing trouble for our trading firm? Half-step heaven-shattering realm expert? Young Master Lei, don't you have eyes for such an expert? You actually dared to provoke him? The higher-ups in the meeting hall all glared angrily. They all knew that when Lei Lingyun was in the demon divine heavenly city, he often caused trouble, relying on the name of the Thunderbolt trading firm. In addition, Lei Lingyun was extremely intelligent and never provoked those with background. So he had always been peaceful. But this time, things were serious. This Lei Lingyun actually provoked a half-step heaven-shattering realm expert. This was simply digging his own grave. Their Thunderbolt trading firm only had one such expert. If this expert didn't give up and directly attacked their Thunderbolt trading firm, it would be a devastating disaster for their trading firm. All right, you don't have to blame Lingyun. The main thing is that expert concealed his own cultivation and took the initiative to interfere in Lingyun's private affairs. That's why this happened. Lei Ming's face darkened, and he said coldly. The meeting hall immediately fell silent. Although many higher-ups were very dissatisfied with Lei Lingyun's way of doing things, the Thunderbolt trading firm was the Lei family's sovereignty after all. Moreover, the Thunderbolt trading firm currently had only one half-step heaven-shattering realm expert, and that was the Lay family's patriarch. In the Thunderbolt trading firm, the Lay family could be said to be able to cover the sky with one hand, and they didn't dare to offend the Lay family. In the hall, a middle-aged man stood up and asked in a deep voice, "President, you've made it so grand now. Doesn't that mean that expert will personally come to the Thunderbolt trading firm?" Chapter 3534. Lay longing president. Rashly starting a war with a half-step heaven-breaking realm powerhouse is seriously unwise. Even if our Thunderbolt trading company can win, we'll probably have to pay a tremendous price too. This is absolutely a devastating disaster to our Thunderbolt trading company. Hope that president will think twice before acting. In the hall, another man stood up and urged, "You all rest assured, I don't want to start a war either. If this person rushes over to Thunderbolt Trading Company, then I'll explain clearly with him and apologize. If he still doesn't accept, then we can only meet on the battlefield." Thundercry said solemnly. Suddenly, a figure rushed in from the door. It was a manservant who reported, "Milord, outside Thunderbolt Trading Company, there's a cultivator who claims to be Juon, coming to find Mr. Lay to collect a debt." The trading company's guards moved to intercept this person, but they were all subdued by this person. The manservant said with a trembling voice, "Came so fast. This Juon is likely that half-step heaven-breaking realm powerhouse that Lingyun offended." Thundercry stood up and said with a slight change in expression. Lay Lingyun's face even revealed a look of fear. He looked at Thundercry, his eyes full of pleading. At the same time, the communication jade talisman at Thundercry's waist also lit up. He opened the communication jade talisman, his eyes revealing a sharp light as he said, "Let's go out. Ancestor has already exited seclusion and arrived at the trading company. With Ancestor around, this Juon won't dare to act unscrupulously in our Thunderbolt Trading Company. Also, bring along Lu Chungfeng, that old fogey. This old fart really raised a good daughter." As he said, Thundercry brought everyone out of the meeting hall, and the upper echelons in the hall all revealed relieved looks when they heard that Ancestor had returned from seclusion, facing a half-step heaven-breaking realm. This kind of expert, they were really somewhat at a loss. Now, only the trading company's Ancestor had the qualifications to speak face-to-face with that Juon. Juon stood in front of Thunderbolt Trading Company. This Thunderbolt Trading Company was built on top of a massive mountain range. It was said that this mountain range would have lightning all year round, hence the name Thunderbolt Trading Company also got its name. Juon already entered the trading company's mountain gate at the foot of the mountain, and the guards guarding the mountain gate had long been knocked out by him. Behind the mountain gate was a white jade staircase that led straight to the headquarters of the Thunderbolt trading firm at the top of the mountain. Juon walked slowly, while Li followed closely behind. At this moment, Li was unable to restrain the excitement in her heart. She finally witnessed the supreme might of a legendary half-step breaking heaven-tier powerhouse. Juon didn't even need to do anything when he entered the Thunderbolt trading firm. The guards who had tried to stop him fell to the ground one after another. She knew that these were all Juon's methods. "Fellow Taoist, please stop here." Just as Juon was slowly walking on the white jade steps with his hands behind his back, an aged and dignified voice came from the distance. Whoosh! In an instant, before the voice had completely dissipated, a figure had already landed on the stairs 10 meters in front of Juon. This was an old man with a long beard. He wore a linen robe, and the wrinkles on his face were filled with age spots. At first glance, he looked like a dying old man, with one foot in the coffin. Juon carefully sized up the old man in front of him with a strange gaze. The aura of the old man in front of him was very strange. Although it seemed to be the aura of the early stage of the first blight, upon closer inspection, one would find that the old man's aura seemed to be lacking in vitality, and his body was full of death chi. This old man hasn't completely passed the first blight, Earth blight. His advancement isn't complete enough, causing his lifespan to be damaged. I'm afraid he doesn't have many years left to live, Zhuowen thought to himself. He could see the problem with the old man at a glance and couldn't help but shake his head. Zhuowen's shake of the head made the old man very unhappy. Just as he was about to speak, more than 10 people walked down the white jade steps above, led by a burly middle-aged man. Lei Lingyun followed, closely behind the middle-aged man. When he saw Zhuowen, his legs immediately went soft, and he didn't dare to look at Zhuowen. Zhuowen glanced at the middle-aged man. Didn't need to say anything. He could guess that this middle-aged man should be the president of the Thunderbolt trading firm, Lei Ming. Lei Ming greets the ancestor. Lei Ming rushed forward excitedly and bowed to the old man. The people behind Lei Ming also stepped forward and bowed. Their eyes were filled with respect. The ancestor of the Thunderbolt trading firm, Lei Longyin, just nodded, and then his gaze fell on Zhuowen, revealing a look of surprise. For some reason, he actually couldn't see the specific cultivation of the young man in front of him. Moreover, the young man in front of him looked a little too young. Although cultivators could change their appearance to maintain their youthful state, the aura of the old man's aura was difficult to conceal. However, the aura of the vicissitudes of life on his body was difficult to conceal, and he was certain that the young man in front of him was definitely less than 10,000 years old. Did such a young, half-step heaven-breaking realm cultivator really exist? Although Lei Longyin didn't believe it in his heart, he still didn't let his guard down. After all, he couldn't see Zhuowen's specific cultivation. Moreover, he also thought that the young man in front of him was young. Even if he really had a half-step heaven-breaking realm cultivation, he was probably on the same level as him. And the Thunderbolt trading firm he was in contained a half-step heaven-breaking realm formation. Although it was only at the elementary level, it was more than enough to trap a first blight cultivator. I'm Thunderbolt trading firm's Lei Longyin. I wonder why fellow Taoist has come to visit my Thunderbolt trading firm. Moreover, not only did you barge into my firm, but you also injured my people. What is the meaning of this? Lei Longyin stood there, and a powerful aura erupted from his body, causing the surrounding pressure to increase sharply. Zhuowen sized up Lei Longyin and frowned slightly. Lei Longyin's attitude was really overestimating himself and the Thunderbolt trading firm. Why did I come to the Thunderbolt trading firm? Didn't Lei Ming tell you? Do you need me to say it again? Zhuowen asked indifferently. Lei Longyin looked at the calm Zhuowen under his aura in surprise. He knew that he had misjudged. The young man in front of him really might be a half-step heaven-breaking realm cultivator. Lei Lingyun, get out here. Lei Longyin retracted his aura and shouted behind him. Although he didn't like Zhuowen, it didn't mean that he was a fool. If it wasn't a last resort, he didn't want to clash head-on with a half-step heaven-breaking realm cultivator. Lei Lingyun trembled all over, but in the end, he still walked out trembling. He knew that he couldn't disobey the ancestors' orders. Otherwise, he would have a good time. Pa! Lei Longyin slapped Lei Lingyun to the ground without holding back and said coldly, "You did it yourself, so you have to bear the consequences. Why aren't you apologizing to this fellow Taoist?" Lord Zhua, Lingyun was confused for a moment. "I hope that Lord can spare my life for the ancestors' sake." Lei Lingyun apologized humbly. Lei Longyin nodded, and then he cupped his hands towards Zhuowen and said, "Fellow Taoist, Lingyun has already apologized solemnly. I think this matter can be taken as a misunderstanding, and you don't have to take it to heart. Zhuowen stood in place and looked coldly at Lei Longyin. Chapter 35:35. Lei Lingyun covered his cheek and shivered as he shrank to the side, but he sighed softly in his heart. Although he had been ruthlessly slapped by Lei Longyin, he knew that Lei Longyin was helping him. With Lei Longyin's strength and the foundation of the mighty Thunder Trading Company, he believed that no matter how bold this Zhuowen was, he wouldn't risk offending both the mighty Thunder Trading Company and Lei Longyin to kill him. To Lei Lingyun, exchanging a slap for a life could be said to be a very good deal. Senior, my son was indeed a little rash before, but he has already apologized, and you have also taught him a lesson before. I think this matter should be settled like this. Lei Ming, who had been silent, now stood out and began to smooth things over. With Lei Longyin, this kind of half-step heaven-breaking realm powerhouse, supporting him from behind, Lei Ming's fear towards Zhuowen had long since vanished into thin air. At this moment, he had regained the dignity of a trading company's president, and facing Zhuowen, his tone was normal, and he spoke frankly with assurance. Just as Lei Ming was about to speak incessantly and analyze the pros and cons of Zhuowen barging into the mighty Thunder Trading Company, a palm landed on his cheek without warning, and a loud slap sounded on the spot. Putong! Lei Ming was knocked to the ground, his whole body crawling, blood flowing from his mouth and nose, and many of his teeth had been knocked out. His whole body twitched, and he was already more out of breath than out. The one who had attacked was naturally Zhuowen, and Zhuowen's attack was merciless, almost beating Lei Ming to the brink of death. The surroundings were silent, and no one saw the trajectory of Zhuowen's attack, and Lei Ming was lying on the ground like a dead dog. They all gasped, and they all realized how strong this seemingly harmless young man in front of them was. Meanwhile, Lei Lingyun, who had been relieved, was frightened again when he saw his father beaten to such a state. His legs trembled violently, and he felt like he was in a mess. His ancestor had come out, and the mighty Thunder Trading Company's half-step heaven-breaking tier formation had been activated, but this guy in front of him was still so unrestrained. Lei Longyin's pupils constricted. Just now, when Zhuowen attacked, he caught a trace of the trajectory, but it was very vague. By the time he reacted, Lei Ming had already been beaten to a pulp. Lei Longyin's eyes revealed a hint of dread. He began to suspect that this young man was not just at the early stage of the first blight. It was very likely that he was at the mid or late stage of the first blight. Thinking of this possibility, Lei Longyin's face turned even uglier. He cursed Lei Lingyun in his heart. What kind of person did he offend? Of course, even if Zhuowen was really in the middle or late stage of the first blight, although Lei Longyin would be wary, he wouldn't be afraid. Although he was only at the early stage of the first blight, the violent Thunder Trading Company still had a half-step heaven break formation. In addition, he also had powerful trump cards. If he used those trump cards, he could seriously injure a late-stage first blight cultivator. However, the price of using this trump card was a bit too high. Unless it was absolutely necessary, Lei Longyin didn't want to use it. Fellow Taoist, if you have any requests, just let me know. There's no need to attack a junior. It's ungentlemanly. Lei Longyin's eyes narrowed. He waved his sleeve and captured the half-dead Lei Ming. He took out a divine pill and fed it to Lei Ming, then handed him over to the people behind him to take care of. Zhuowen didn't stop him. He didn't come to the violent Thunder Trading Company to make trouble, but to get some benefits. At the same time, he didn't plan to keep Lei Lingyun alive. Zhuowen said indifferently, "My request is very simple. One is to let Lu Chengfeng out." Lei Longyin nodded and said, "This is easy." With that, Lei Longyin waved his hand, and the people behind him went down. After a while, they brought Lu Chengfeng out. At this moment, Lu Chengfeng was quite embarrassed. His body was covered in wounds, and his aura was weak. He was tied up by a golden rope and couldn't move at all. "Grandfather, are you okay?" Li who was standing beside Zhuo Wen, saw Lu Chengfeng's miserable state and cried out in heartache. She looked like a weeping beauty. "You guys are quite fast." Zhuo Wen's eyes were cold. Lei Lingyun had escaped not long ago, but Lu Chengfeng had already been captured and tortured to this extent. It was obvious that the Violent Thunder Trading Company didn't have good intentions from the beginning. "I brought Lu Chengfeng to you. I can let him go, but you have to be sensible and retreat. In the future, we won't interfere with each other's business." Lei Longyin said. "You beat him up like this, and let him go as if nothing happened?" Zhuo Wen sneered. "Then what do you want?" Lei Longyin frowned. "I have more than one request. First, let Lu Chengfeng go. Second, let Lei Lingyun commit suicide in front of Li as an apology. Third, your Thunderbolt Trading Company needs to compensate me for my mental trauma. I'll give you a discount. 10 supreme grade, heavenly law origin crystal veins." Zhuo Wen said indifferently. As soon as he said this, there was a gasp from behind Lei Longyin. Lei Longyin's face darkened, and he said angrily, "Why don't you just rob 10 supreme grade, heavenly law origin crystal veins?" Supreme grade, heavenly law origin crystal veins were extremely precious. Even their Violent Thunder Trading Company didn't have many. This Zhuo Wen actually opened his mouth and asked for 10 supreme grade, heavenly law origin crystal veins. This request was too much. Also, this boy actually asked Lei Lingyun to commit suicide in front of Lier. Lei Longyin couldn't agree to this request. Lei Lingyun was his direct descendant after all. His blood flowed in his body. How could he watch Lei Lingyun commit suicide in front of him? "You mean you don't agree?" Zhuo Wen said with a cold smile. "Humph, your request is too much. Unless..." Speaking up to here, Lei Longyin suddenly took out a golden talisman. It immediately wrapped their group inside and disappeared from the steps. This Violent Thunder Trading Company is really rich and overbearing. It's actually another cicada shedding talisman. Zhuo Wen wasn't surprised that Lei Longyin and the rest left, or rather, he deliberately let Lei Longyin leave. He needed a reason to deal with the Violent Thunder Trading Company, and this reason to him was that the Violent Thunder Trading Company took the initiative to attack first. As long as the Violent Thunder Trading Company attacked first, then he was on the side of reason. Even if the Demon Saint Palace came, he wouldn't be in the wrong. Fellow Taoist, we originally had the possibility of resolving this peacefully. Unfortunately, it was you who went too far. Since that's the case, then I won't be polite. At this moment, Lei Longyin's cold voice came from the headquarters of the Violent Thunder Trading Company at the top of the mountain. However, Lei Longyin's voice was quickly drowned out by the terrifying sound of thunder. Countless bolts of lightning condensed in the sky above the mountain. These bolts of lightning were dark red, like some kind of lightning punishment energy. They carried a strange and terrifying energy. The mountain range where the Violent Thunder Trading Company was located was called the Thunder Punishment Mountain Range. The geography of this mountain range was enveloped in terrifying lightning punishment energy all year round. The location where the Violent Thunder Trading Company was located just happened to avoid all the lightning energy. It was the core of the Thunder Punishment Mountain Range and also the safest place. It was precisely because of the location of the Violent Thunder Trading Company that it was known as the most difficult company to attack among the 4 great companies. This was because thunder fell here all year round, and the Violent Thunder Trading Company had a method to attract thunder. They collected the power of thunder from the Thunder Punishment Mountain Range all year round and condensed it in a certain valley in the mountain range. After years of accumulation, the thunder in the valley was extremely terrifying. It was said that even if a peak first blight cultivator accidentally stepped in, they could be seriously injured or even die. Chapter 35-36. Detonation Lei Longyin was relying on the lightning energy that had been accumulated in Thunder Punishment Valley for countless years. Once it was released, he knew that Zhuowen would die, without a doubt. However, the base that the Thunderbolt Trading Company had built over countless years might turn into ruins. Only the core palace, which was in the safest position, might survive. After this battle, the Thunderbolt Trading Company might lose their most powerful natural barrier. This would be a huge blow to the Thunderbolt Trading Company. However, Lei Longyin knew that he had no other choice. He already knew that Zhuowen's strength should be above his. If he fought with Zhuowen face to face, the chances of him losing were too high. He didn't dare to joke with his life. Boom, boom, boom. Countless lightning bolts suddenly shot out from the depths of the mountain range. It was like a flood that had burst out from a collapsed dam. It was extremely fierce and terrifying. The white jade steps under Zhuowen's feet completely collapsed. Countless lightning bolts came from all directions like an endless torrent, instantly submerging Zhuowen and Li Er. Zhuowen's expression changed slightly. Without thinking, he put Li Er into the outside world. A purple light surged around his body, protecting him from head to toe. Is this what Lei Longyin is relying on? Zhuowen frowned in the midst of the countless lightning energies. He was especially shocked when he saw that the entire Thunder Punishment Mountain range was shrouded in this terrifying lightning. The commotion in the Thunder Punishment Mountain range was too great. Countless lightning bolts flickered, like a dazzling new star, attracting countless gazes. That's the lightning energy of Thunder Punishment Valley. That Lei Longyin actually triggered Thunder Punishment Valley. This guy, in the starry sky billions of miles away from Thunder Punishment Mountain Range, the Divine Horn Protector, who was originally hurrying along, noticed the terrifying lightning bolts in the distance and involuntarily stopped. His eyes were filled with shock. The azure-armored man, who was held in his hand, was also shocked. Thunder Punishment Valley was too famous in the Fiend domain. It was the strongest trump card of the Thunderbolt Trading Company. Even the Fiend Saint Palace was wary of this natural danger zone. But now, Thunder Punishment Valley had actually exploded. Clearly, the Thunderbolt Trading Company was dealing with a powerful enemy. Otherwise, they wouldn't have used such a costly trump card. Lord Protector, I'm afraid that Thunderbolt Trading Company detonated the Thunder Punishment Valley to deal with that lord. This Thunder Punishment Valley is so terrifying. I think that no matter how strong that lord is, it would be hard for him to survive. The green-armored man said carefully. The godly Horn Guardian did not say a word, his eyes gloomy. He had come all the way here with the man in green armor to win over Zhuowen. However, if he only saw a corpse, then wouldn't he have come here for nothing? He was somewhat unwilling. Let's go to Thunderbolt Trading Firm and take a look. If he's alive, I want to see him. If he's dead, I want to see his corpse. The godly Horn Guardian snorted coldly and continued forward. Meanwhile, on the other side of the Thunderbolt Trading Firm, another group of people was also looking at the spectacular sight of the Thunder Punishment Mountain Range in shock. The Thunder Punishment Valley was actually detonated. Has Lei Longyin gone mad? The leader of this group was the ancestor of the Spirit Phoenix Trading Company, Bailey Jingluan. He looked at the Thunder Punishment Mountain Range and couldn't help but cry out. He was too shocked. Bailey Chioling and the others who were standing in the group were also shocked. They knew everything about the Thunder Punishment Valley. They knew how terrifying the Thunder Punishment Valley was. Ancestor, It seems that we came here for nothing. I'm afraid that person won't be able to survive." Bailey Chioling shook her head and smiled bitterly. "Chioling, the rogue cultivator you're talking about is at least at the mid-stage or late stage of the first blight. Otherwise, that old fellow Lei Longing wouldn't have used the Thunder Punishment Valley." Bailey Jingluan shook his head and sighed. "It's a pity that this person died young. He was too impulsive. He rushed forward without knowing anything about the Thunderbolt Trading Company. Now it's a tragedy. Ancestor, do we still need to go?" Bailey Chilling frowned slightly. "Let's go take a look. However, there's no need for so many people. You can all go back. Only Chioling, and I will go take a look." After Bailey Jingluan sent the others away, he continued to lead Bailey Chioling to the Thunderbolt Trading Company. At this moment, the Thunderbolt Trading Company was too terrifying. It had become a lightning hell. Zhuowen had already put away his human body and summoned his doppelganger to resist the lightning. The Panga's sacred body was too powerful. Although the lightning was terrifying, it wasn't enough to cause too much damage to the mid-stage Pangu's sacred body. Moreover, the Panga's sacred body could continuously absorb the surging energy from the lightning while it was being struck by lightning, using this to continuously strengthen the Panga's sacred body. The lightning from the Thunder Punishment Valley raged in the mountains for 10 days and 10 nights. The huge Thunder Punishment Mountains were forcibly blasted into nothingness. Apart from the small mountain at the core, the surrounding mountains had long disappeared and were now terrifying craters. The Divine Horn Enforcer and Bailey Jingluan had also arrived at the outskirts of the Thunder Punishment Mountains. The two had already greeted each other and tacitly observed the outskirts of the Thunder Punishment Mountains, waiting for the lightning to disappear. Bailey Jingluan glanced at the Divine Horn Enforcer not far away. He felt a little bitter. He didn't expect the Demon Saint Palace to directly send the Divine Horn Enforcer. Wasn't this too important? If Zhuowen was really still alive, he knew that he wouldn't be able to compete with the Divine Horn Enforcer. However, what made him rejoice was that Zhuowen clearly did not have much chance of surviving under such terrifying thunderbolts. In the Thunder Punishment Mountains, on the only remaining small mountain, Lei Longyin had his hands behind his back. He looked down at the lightning that was gradually disappearing around him and breathed a sigh of relief. He knew that everything was over. That damned Zhuowen. He actually forced me to detonate the Thunder Punishment Valley. It's fine if he's dead, but he destroyed the countless years of foundation of the thunderous trading firm. Lei Longyin cursed bitterly, but soon Lei Longyin felt that something was wrong. A sharp gust of wind shot up from below and arrived in front of him in an instant. Uffed! Lei Longyin was caught off guard, and his chest was heavily hit. He spat out a mouthful of blood and was sent flying. Bang! Lei Longyin landed on the ground. Just as he was about to stand up, a foot suddenly appeared and mercilessly landed on his chest, stomping him back to the ground. "It's you? How is this possible?" Lei Longyin forced his eyes open and immediately saw Zhuowen's face. His eyes widened as he cried out in disbelief. In the palace on the small mountain, Lei Ming and Lei Lingyun led everyone out and saw the scene of Lei Longyin being stomped by Zhuowen. They were all petrified. "Father, what's going on?" Why isn't he dead? Even the Thunder Punishment Valley didn't kill him." Lei Lingyun sat down on the ground, scared witless as he spoke incoherently. Chapter 35-37. Suicide. Even the lightning punishment energy in Thunder Punishment Valley couldn't kill him. Who is he? Lei Ming stood there in a daze as a strong sense of regret appeared in his heart. He regretted provoking the youth in front of him because of Lei Lingyun's matter. He had been proud and thought that the violent Thunder Trading Company was invincible, but now he had paid a heavy price for his arrogance. Most of the Violent Thunder Trading Company's territory had been destroyed, and the pillar of the company, Lei Longyin, had been stepped on. What right did the Violent Thunder Trading Company have to be arrogant now? Oh shit, what is this guy's body made of? The entire Thunder Punishment Valley's lightning punishment energy is enough to kill a peak first blight cultivator, but this guy looks completely fine. Outside the ruins of the Thunder Punishment Mountain Range, Bailey Chioling naturally recognized the youth who had appeared on the small mountain range and cursed for the first time. Bailey Jingluan bitterly smiled. He knew that he had underestimated Zhuowen. This guy was definitely a powerhouse beyond the first blight. Even the lightning punishment energy in Thunder Punishment Valley couldn't do anything to him. His strength was too terrifying. Aside from the Demon Saint Palace, what other force in Demon Divine City could stop this person? Thinking about how he had planned to recruit this person, Bailey Jingluan couldn't help but bitterly smile. Wasn't he overestimating himself? He was only at the early stage of the first blight, and this person's cultivation was at least a major realm higher than his. Unless he was crazy, he had actually planned to recruit such a powerhouse. Not far away, the Godhorn Protector also saw this scene. His eyes were burning as he stared at Zhuowen. He originally thought that Zhuowen was just an ordinary first blight cultivator, and that him personally coming to recruit him was already giving him enough respect, so he didn't come with much sincerity. But now his eyes were bright, and he felt like he had picked up a treasure. He was the third strongest person in the Demon Saint Palace and a peak third blight cultivator. His knowledge was a level higher than Bailey Jingluan and Lei Longyin, although Zhuowen's aura was perfectly hidden, and he couldn't detect his specific cultivation level. He knew how terrifying Thunder Punishment Valley was. The energy that erupted from the Thunder Punishment Valley was enough to kill any life form under the second blight. Even if a second blight cultivator could resist the energy, they would still be injured. As for Zhuowen, he wasn't injured at all. Only a third blight cultivator could do this. Without a doubt, the Godhorn Protector knew that Zhuowen was definitely a third blight cultivator. This kind of cultivator was what the Demon Saint Palace lacked. Moreover, what was even rarer was that this person was a genuine rogue cultivator. His value was truly immeasurable. The Divine Horn Guardian made up his mind. No matter what price he had to pay, he had to rope this person into the Demon Saint Palace. Even if this person wanted the green-armored man's life, he would agree without hesitation. The green-armored man, who had lost both of his arms standing on the Godhorn Protector's side, was extremely pale. He had already seen through the thoughts of the godly Horn Guardian. He knew that he was insignificant now. It was very likely that he would die here, but he didn't dare to escape. If he escaped, he would only die faster, and it would be a very painful death. At this moment, on the small remaining core mountain range of the Thunder Punishment Mountain Range, Lei Longyin was being firmly stepped on by Zhuowen. Lei Longyin quickly said, "Fellow Zhuo, let's talk nicely. What happened just now was just a misunderstanding. My Thunder Trading firm is willing to compensate you for everything." Lei Longyin hurriedly said. Because his cheeks were being stepped on by Zhuowen, his voice was a bit distorted, but he didn't care. He revealed a forced smile and begged for mercy from Zhuowen. "Misunderstanding? I only came to your Thunder Trading Company to ask for an explanation. As long as your Thunder Trading Company gave a fair explanation, I would have let it go. But you obstructed me again and again, and even wanted to send me away like I was a beggar. In the end, you even used the Thunder Punishment Valley's Thunder Punishment Valley to kill me. Was all of this a misunderstanding? Today, I was not strong enough and died in the Thunder Punishment Valley. Presumably, it wasn't a misunderstanding as you said. I deserved it." Zhuowen sneered. He had come to the Thunder Trading Company to ask for an explanation. He hadn't even made a move. But the Thunder Trading Company was different. From the beginning, they had pretended to be weak in front of him and then directly wanted to kill him with real bullets. This was no longer a misunderstanding, but a great hatred of life and death. Fellow Joie, please calm down. I will agree to all of your requests just now. Lei Longyin's forehead was covered in cold sweat. He quickly called Lei Lingyun over. Lingyun, get over here and kneel in front of this senior. Kill yourself and apologize. Lei Lingyun was scared out of his wits. He didn't expect Lei Longyin to give in so quickly. Moreover, he was directly ordered to kill himself in front of this person. This was too humiliating. Not in front of me, but in front of Li. Zhuowen said faintly. He waved his hand and summoned Li from the macro world again. After Li appeared, her beautiful eyes were filled with bewilderment, but very quickly, Zhuowen sent her a voice transmission and explained the general situation. This caused Li to stare at Zhuo when in a daze. She didn't expect that the person in front of her was so fierce that even the Thunder Punishment Valley's Thunder Punishment Valley couldn't do anything to him. Now, the Thunder Trading Company's patriarch, Lei Longyin, was under his feet. Just how ferocious was this? Whoosh! Seeing that his life was in danger, Lei Lingyun roared angrily and ran away. However, he didn't run for long before he was caught by a big hand. Plop! Zhuowen threw Lei Lingyun in front of Li, and said faintly, "Now, you only have two choices. One, listen to me and kill yourself in front of Li. I can let you reincarnate. Two, I'll send you on your way, but you can forget about reincarnating." Lei Lingyun trembled. He sighed softly and knelt in front of Li. After apologizing solemnly, he killed himself. Li's beautiful eyes were complicated as she looked at Lei Lingyun, who had fallen in front of her. "Lei Ming, what are you waiting for? Release Lu Chungfeng right now. Also, take out the transfer tokens of the remaining 10 Supreme Grade Heavenly Law Origin crystal veins and give them to Brother Joie." After Lei Lingyun died, Lei Longyin didn't show any grief. Instead, he shouted for Lei Ming to let him go. Lei Ming's eyes were filled with sorrow. He sighed and let Lu Chungfeng go. Then, he gave Joie a medallion. Lu Chungfeng hurried to Li's side and comforted her. Then, he looked at Zhuowen gratefully and said, "My lord, this old man will never forget your kindness for saving my life." Zhuowen waved his hand, indicating that Lu Chungfeng didn't need to be so polite. He also took the token that Lei Ming gave him without hesitation. "Brother Joie, I've already fulfilled your request. Shouldn't you let me go?" Lei Longyin said with a smile, "I have no enmity with your Thunderbolt trading firm. Naturally, I don't intend to fight to the death with your Thunderbolt trading firm. I promise you that I will only destroy you now. As for the Thunderbolt trading firm, I won't touch it." Zhuowen's eyes were cold. His right hand formed a sword finger and pointed at Lei Longyin's forehead. A terrifying, shattered divine power emerged. "Ah!" Lei Longyin screamed in pain. He could clearly feel the shattered divine power surging in the depths of his divine soul, wantonly destroying the world of his divine soul. Zhuowen looked coldly at Lei Longyin, who had completely lost his vitality. He didn't intend to kill Lei Longyin, but Lei Longyin was too insatiable. In the end, he even tried to kill him. Chapter 35-38. Guest Protector Lei Ming stood to the side, silently watching Lei Longyin die, indifferent. He had nothing left to live for. Lei Lingyun was his most beloved son, but he could only watch him die in front of him. Now his mind was completely blank and he was completely sluggish. Even if Zhuowen killed him, he probably wouldn't feel much about it right now. As for the rest of the people from the thunder-raising trading firm, they were trembling. Their faces were filled with fear, afraid that Zhuowen would also kill them. Don't worry, I'm not against people, and not matters. The reason why things ended up like this was mainly because Lei Longyin provoked me. Now that Lei Longyin is dead, all grudges are over. If any one of you is still unconvinced, you can come and find me. After Zhuowen finished speaking, he planned to leave with Lu Chengfeng and Li Er. However, a figure stopped him. Zhuowen's eyes were calm as he looked at the old man in a long robe in front of him. He had already noticed this robed old man when he had escaped from the lightning tribulation. He glanced at the man in green armor beside the old man and knew that this old man was from the Demon Saint Palace. What surprised Zhuowen even more was that this old man's cultivation was extremely good. He was actually at the peak of the third blight. Even in the Demon Saint Palace, this kind of cultivation was a high position. He didn't expect that the Demon Saint Palace would actually send such a big shot. This was a bit too much for him. In addition, he also noticed another team in another part of the Thunder Punishment Mountain Range. That team also consisted of two people, an old man and a woman. The woman was also an acquaintance to Zhuowen. She was actually Bailey Chioling of the Spirit Phoenix trading firm that he had met before. This old man's cultivation was also not bad. He was at the early stage of the first blight. He was probably the old ancestor of the Spirit Phoenix trading firm, an existence on the same level as Lei Longyin. Fellow cultivator, I don't know what you are. Zhuowen pretended to be confused and looked at the godly horn protector in front of him. The celestial horn guardian smiled and said, Fellow cultivator, I am one of the 5 great guardians of the demonic Saint Palace, Celestial Horn Guardian. I heard that this bastard attacked you indiscriminately in the demonic Saint Heavenly City and offended you. This is our demon Saint Palace's fault. We didn't manage our subordinates well. Today, I brought this vile creature here to apologize to fellow Taoist. You can kill or torture this person as you wish. The green-armored man was so frightened that his legs turned to jelly and he knelt down. Didn't they say that the divine horn guardian would help him? Why was it that the moment he opened his mouth, he wanted to kill him? The man in green armor did not dare to speak. He already knew that the God Horn Guardian was going to sacrifice him in order to win over Zhuowen. However, even if he knew that the God Horn Guardian was going to do this, he did not dare to refute. After all, the God Horn Guardian was one of the 5 great guardians of the demonic Saint Palace. His strength and status far exceeded his own. It was too easy for him to kill him, and the demonic Saint Palace would not uphold justice for him. Now, the only thing he could do and still be happy was to listen to the God Horn Guardian's arrangements. Even if the God Horn Guardian asked him to die, he had to obey. Otherwise, he would only suffer a fate worse than death. Zhuowen looked at the green-armored man indifferently and said, This is a misunderstanding. I don't care about it anymore. Fellow cultivator, if there is nothing else, please make way. I plan to leave this place. Fellow cultivator, you are really magnanimous. However, as the saying goes, a country has its own laws, and a family has its own rules. This vile creature violated the rules of the demonic Saint Heavenly City and misunderstood you. We can't let him go so easily. The God Horn Guardian was still smiling. His right hand landed on the green-armored man's shoulder and exerted force. The green-armored man's shoulder directly burst open. The green-armored man screamed. His face was pale, and cold sweat kept pouring out of his forehead. It was too painful. Zhuowen looked at the God Horn Guardian indifferently. He knew that the God Horn Guardian was trying to be friendly with him. I am Zhuowen. The God Horn Guardian is fair and just. Today, I will accept your kindness." After saying that, Zhuowen bypassed the Godhorn Guardian and left the mountain range. The Godhorn Guardian was stunned on the spot. His face suddenly became ugly. What was wrong with Zhuowen? Did he not know what the Godhorn Guardian was trying to do? "Stop!" The Godhorn Guardian suddenly shouted. Zhuowen stopped and turned around. He looked at the Godhorn Guardian indifferently and said, "Godhorn Guardian, do you have any other business?" Of course, he knew the Godhorn Guardian's purpose. It was to rope him into the demonic Saint Palace. However, it was impossible for Zhuowen to join the demonic Saint Palace. He only came here to see the true face of the demonic saint. "Fellow cultivator Zhua, in fact, I have a presumptuous request. I hope you can join the demonic Saint Palace. The demonic Saint Palace is the most powerful force in the demonic Saint Palace. It was established by the demonic saint Dong Huang Tai. With your strength, if you join the demonic Saint Palace, you will immediately become an existence equal to the 5 great guardians." The Godhorn Guardian finally opened his mouth and said the real purpose of his visit. "I am sorry, Godhorn Guardian. You may be disappointed. I am used to being unrestrained. I am not willing to join any force. I think I am fine now," Zhuowen said calmly. The Godhorn Guardian frowned, and his face suddenly became a little ugly. However, he quickly recovered and said, "Since fellow cultivator Zhua likes to be unrestrained, I will not force you. How about this? Fellow cultivator Zhua, you can be the guest guardian of the demonic Saint Palace. It is just a title. The demonic Saint Palace will not restrict your actions. Moreover, if you want to leave the demonic Saint Palace in the future, that is your freedom. However, when you are still a guest guardian, the demonic Saint Palace will still need your help with some matters. You will still need to fight for the demonic Saint Palace. Other than that, you are free to do anything." Hearing this, Zhuowen's eyes lit up. The Godhorn Guardian's proposal was quite attractive to him. He had come to the demon domain to meet the Holy Maiden of the demon domain, and the Holy Maiden of the demon domain was in the demon Saint Palace. If he were to become a guest elder of the demon Saint Palace, wouldn't meeting the Holy Maiden of the demon domain become much easier? Thinking of this, Zhuowen looked at the Godhorn Guardian and said, "Godhorn Guardian, this is what you said. If I become a guest guardian of the demonic Saint Palace, if I want to leave the demonic Saint Palace in the future, you will not stop me, right?" Seeing that Zhuowen was interested, the Godhorn Guardian quickly patted his chest and promised, "Okay, then I will become a guest guardian of the demonic Saint Palace." Zhuowen nodded. "Ha ha, brother Zhua, in the future, you will know how wise your choice is today." Chapter 35-39. Demon Saint Realm Zhuowen only smiled, not paying too much attention to the Divine Horn Protector's words. If it weren't for Mu Qinxue, Zhuowen wouldn't even have planned to come to the demon realm. Moreover, as long as he knew that the Holy Maiden of the demon realm could really be Mu Qinxue, he would take her away without hesitation and leave the demon Saint Palace. "My other friend, there's no need to hide anymore. Come out." Zhuowen suddenly transmitted his voice to the other side of the Thunder Punishment Mountain Range. Bailey Jingluan and Bailey Chioling, who had been hiding there, had no choice but to come out when they saw that their whereabouts had been exposed. "I am Bailey Jingluan of the Spirit Phoenix trading firm. This is my junior, Bailey Chioling." This old one really didn't expect fellow Taoist, Zhua, to be so powerful. Lei Longyin of the Thunder Punishment Mountain Range was no match for fellow Taoist Zhua at all. This old one is impressed. Bailey Jingluan cupped his hands and bowed as soon as he came up. His attitude could be said to be cautious. After seeing Zhuowen's methods, he had long been convinced. He knew that if this person could easily kill Lei Longyin, he could easily kill him as well. He had no choice but to treat such a person with caution. Bailey Chioling's beautiful eyes were filled with a complicated look. Although she had long known that Zhuowen was extraordinary, she didn't expect him to be so awesome. He single-handedly took down the Thunder Punishment firm, which was no weaker than the Spirit Phoenix trading firm. Even the second protector of the Demon Saint Palace, Divine Horn Protector, had personally come to invite Zhuowen. This person was far more powerful and extraordinary than she had imagined. At the same time, Bailey Chioling was also very glad that she hadn't been as stupid as Lei Lingyun to offend such a terrifying powerhouse. Ha ha, fellow Taoist Bailey, from now on, Brother Zhu will be a protector of our Demon Saint Palace. Don't be mistaken in the future. Also, I don't want the Thunder Punishment Firm incident to happen again. I hope fellow Taoist Bailey will inform the other two trading firms. Divine Horn Protector was beaming with joy. He was clearly very satisfied with this result. The smile on his face was very bright. Bailey Jingluan hurriedly cupped his fists and promised that this matter would never happen again in the Spirit Phoenix trading firm, and he would also tell the other two trading firms about it. The Celestial Horn Enforcer's strength and status were far above his own, so Bailey Jingluan really did not dare to neglect the former's instructions. Ha! In a few days, the Demon Region auction that happens once every 5 years should be held by your Spirit Phoenix Trading Company, right? It is said that there are many good things. Brother Zhua, if you are interested, you can go to the auction and have a look. The Divine Horn Protector laughed and said, Zhuowen's eyes lit up. What he needed the most right now was to find something that could weaken the Blight Tribulation. Perhaps he could find such an item in this auction. Fellow Taoist Bailey, are there any items that can weaken the Blight in your auction this time? Zhuowen looked at Bailey Jingluan with shining eyes. Bailey Jingluan was taken aback, but he quickly said, anything that can weaken a Blight Tribulation is a rare treasure. If it was an auction in the past, this kind of thing would be very rare. But fellow Taoist, Zhua's luck is pretty good this time. Our auction this time really has such an item. However, you also know that this kind of thing is the most coveted by half-step heaven-breaking realm powerhouses. This auction will definitely be a fierce battle. The Divine Horn Enforcer's eyes lit up when he learned that this auction really had an item that could weaken a Blight Tribulation. He hurriedly said, Fellow Taoist Bailey, why didn't you say so earlier? There's actually such a good item in the auction this time. What is it? Bailey Jingluan said helplessly, there are still a few days to the auction. I was planning to use these few days to publicize it. Now that fellow Taoist, Zhua asked, I won't keep you in suspense. That item cannot be revealed in detail at the moment. This is the request of the person who put it up for auction. Only after the auction starts, and that item appears, will we finally announce it. Fellow Taoist, Zhua, Divine Horn Enforcer, please forgive me. No matter. I know your Spirit Phoenix Trading Company's rules. Now that you mention it, I am very interested in this auction of yours. When the time comes, I will definitely attend. The Divine Horn Enforcer said, with a smile. Then I will await your arrival. Bailey Jingluan cupped his hands and said. Both sides chatted for a while more before they both bid farewell and left, leaving behind the already devastated Violent Thunder Trading Company. Thundercry stared blankly at the surrounding ruins. Finally, he shook his head and said with a sigh, from today onwards, Violent Thunder Trading Company will be sealed off for 10,000 years. In these 10,000 years, Violent Thunder Trading Company will absolutely not appear in the world. Brother Divine Horn, I heard that the Demon Region newly conferred a Holy Maiden before, and she's extremely impressive. I'm very curious about that Holy Maiden. Can you tell me about that Holy Maiden? On the way, Zhuowen mentioned the Demon Region's Holy Maiden matter intentionally or unintentionally. The divine horn enforcer did not doubt him and introduced with a smile, speaking of that holy maiden's origins. Actually, I'm not sure either. The entire Demon Saint Palace probably isn't too clear either. Several years ago, Lord Demon Saint suddenly brought back a young woman, and then the next day, he conferred that woman as the Demon Region's Holy Maiden. At that time, it was extremely sudden. Many of the demon race's upper echelons voiced their objections, but they were all suppressed by Lord Demon Saint. Later, this Holy Maiden was also very powerful. Her cultivation speed was extremely fast, far surpassing all the young geniuses of the demon region. Not only did she easily advance to the half-step heaven-breaking realm, but she's also now a powerhouse of the second blight. When the divine horn enforcer spoke of the Holy Maiden's cultivation speed, his eyes revealed a look of disbelief. He felt that the Holy Maiden's cultivation speed was extraordinarily fast. However, in the later conversation, the divine horn enforcer inadvertently revealed that the demon region's Holy Maiden's bloodline was extremely special. It was said that it was of the fire attribute. When she advanced, there was a phoenix soaring into the sky, and the scene was resplendent. Zhuowen's eyes were bright. He was 80% sure that the demon region's Holy Maiden was the one who obtained the fire phoenix's inheritance, and it was very likely that she was Mu Qinxue. Thinking of this, Zhuowen's heart thumped wildly, and he felt an irrepressible excitement. At the same time, he secretly decided that if the Holy Maiden was really Mu Qinxue, he would take Mu Qinxue away at all costs. For this, he would not hesitate to offend Demon Saint Palace. Divine Horn Enforcer. When I was in the demon region, I often heard of the Holy Maiden's various charms and rumors. I'm very interested in the Holy Maiden of the demon region. This time, I plan to enter Demon Saint Palace to meet the Holy Maiden of the demon region. Zhuowen said calmly, Brother Zhuo, you are now a guest protector of the Demon Saint Palace, not to mention the Saintess. Even if it is the Demon Saint, if you want to see him, it will only take a single sentence. However, the Holy Maiden went out to work for the Demon Saint a few days ago. She went to the untainted heavenly realm, and I'm afraid it will be a while before she comes back. I'm afraid you won't be able to see her at this time. The divine horn enforcer laughed. That's all right. Anyway, I'm not in a hurry. I just heard some rumors about the Holy Maiden, and I'm a little curious about her. Zhuowen said lightly. Soon, the two of them arrived at the Demon Saint Palace as they chatted. It had to be said that Demon Saint Palace was indeed magnificent and majestic, far surpassing Wizard God City in the untainted heavenly realm. It was similar to the Three Purities Palace in the Heaven Accessing Place. Brother Zhuo, I've already informed the Demon Saint about your matter, but the Demon Saint has been in closed-door training, so it's inconvenient for him to meet you, so he sent the Great Protector to meet you. When they arrived at the gate of Demon Saint Palace, the Divine Horn Enforcer said to Zhuowen apologetically, It doesn't matter, but I'm curious, what realm is the Demon Saint in now? Chapter 3540. Great Guardian. Speaking of which, he had some history with Dong Huang Tai Yi. When he entered the place where Dong Huang Tai Yi was sealed, he was tricked by the green-haired mummy. In the end, Dong Huang Tai Yi escaped. He learned from the green-furred corpse that Dong Huang Tai Yi was an ancient figure who had once fought against the Three Pure Ones. His strength was unfathomable. He was curious about Dong Huang Tai Yi's cultivation. Had he reached the fifth blight? The Divine Horn Guardian said mysteriously. Before he went into seclusion, Lord Demon Saint was already at the peak of the fourth blight. This time, he is trying to break through to the fifth blight. Once Lord Demon Saint successfully breaks through to the fifth blight, the Xianmi heavenly region, and the primitive heavenly region will no longer look down on us. Hearing this, Zhuowen nodded. His heart was full of fear. Dong Wang Tai Yi was indeed amazing. After being sealed for so long, his cultivation was still so strong. He was indeed a great figure from the ancient era. Greetings, Divine Horn Guardian. At the entrance of the Demon Saint Palace, 2 guards saw the Divine Horn Guardian and Zhuowen. They quickly knelt on the ground and saluted respectfully. The Divine Horn Guardian led Zhuowen into the Demon Saint Palace. Everywhere they passed, many disciples of the Demon Saint Palace saluted and greeted them. Soon, the Divine Horn Guardian led him to a magnificent hall. It was the Demon Saint Palace. At this moment, at the entrance of the Demon Saint Palace, a red-faced old man in a red robe was standing. The red-faced old man exuded a blazing aura, as if he was a fire source. He exuded an indescribable and terrifying heat. Great Guardian! The Divine Horn Guardian walked forward and saluted the red-faced old man respectfully. The red-faced old man nodded, and then his gaze descended onto Zhuo when, as he said indifferently, "This person is the new guest protector you spoke of?" The Divine Horn Guardian nodded and told him everything that had happened at the Violent Thunder firm. At the same time, he kept emphasizing how powerful Zhuowen was. Anyway, he said a lot of good things about Zhuowen. Zhuowen silently sized up the Great Protector, but he was rather surprised. This head protector's aura was extremely powerful, even surpassing the Godhorn Protector. This person was an early-stage 4th Blight cultivator. His strength was unfathomable. He didn't expect Beast Saint Palace to have another 4th Blight expert other than Dong Wang Tai Yi. This Beast Saint Palace was indeed extraordinary. I already know. Protector Zhuo, it's your fortune to be able to become a guest protector of my Demon Saint Palace. But this time you made a mistake. The Thunderbolt Trading Company is one of the 4 great trading companies in the Demon region. It controls 20% of the trade in the Demon region and is of vital importance to the Demon region. Yet you relied on your own strength to destroy the Thunderbolt Trading Company. That's too overbearing. If it wasn't for the fact that this is your first offense, this old man would have already taken you down and thrown you into the law enforcement hall for trial. The Great Guardian spoke and criticized Zhuowen mercilessly with harsh words. The Divine Horn Guardian was stunned. He did not expect that the Great Guardian would not say any words of welcome. Instead, he poured cold water on him. What was going on? Zhuowen also found it strange. Wasn't the Great Guardian here to welcome him? Wasn't his opening a bit too sharp? Divine Horn, take Protector Zhuo away. I have already arranged a place for him to stay. It's in the D area of the Demon Saint Palace. After the Great Guardian finished speaking, he entered the Demon Saint Palace without looking back. When the Divine Horn Guardian heard about the D area, his expression suddenly changed. He opened his mouth and wanted to say something, but in the end, he did not say anything. He only looked at Zhuowen apologetically. Zhuowen was not a hothead. From the Divine Horn Guardian's expression, he could tell that the D area was probably a relatively bad location in the Demon Saint Palace. Protector Zhuo, I'm really sorry. I don't know what's wrong with the Great Guardian today. His attitude is a bit sharp. Maybe he's in a bad mood today, so his words are a bit strange. The Divine Horn Guardian said apologetically, "It's fine." Zhuowen responded. He really didn't care about the head protector's attitude. He did not plan to stay in the Demon Saint Palace for long. He really did not care about the Great Guardian's attitude towards him. However, Zhuowen had a good impression of the Divine Horn Guardian's character. He was very humane. This is the D area. Zhuowen looked at the rows of low pavilions in front of him and the thin, heavenly energy around him. He could not help but frown. The Divine Horn Guardian smiled awkwardly and said, "Protector Zhuo, the D area is the worst area in the Demon Saint Palace." Generally, it is the area where the outer disciples and servants live. Generally speaking, we protectors live in the Super A area. However, the Great Guardian arranged it like this. I don't understand. At this point, the Divine Horn Guardian could not continue. He felt very embarrassed. He was the one who invited Zhuowen to the Demon Saint Palace. He did not expect that Zhuowen would receive such treatment. He was very embarrassed. It's okay. This place is not bad. At least it's much quieter than other places. I also have some peace. Zhuowen smiled. The Divine Horn Guardian looked at Zhuowen gratefully and promised Zhuowen that if he needed any help in the Demon Saint Palace, he could look for him. Zhuowen and the Divine Horn Guardian chatted for a while before the Divine Horn Guardian left. Zhuowen then went to find the cave that the Great Guardian had arranged for him. Looking at the low and shabby pavilions in front of him, Zhuowen shook his head. He did not particularly care. After he rearranged the pavilions, he went into seclusion to wait for the auction to begin. Since the Saintess of the Demon Saint Palace would not return for a while, he could only wait in the Demon Saint Palace. Other than that, he was waiting for the auction to begin. As long as he could obtain the item that Bailey Jingluan mentioned that could weaken the Earth's blight, he would be able to immediately use Xinrui's energy liquid to break through to the third blight. Time gradually passed. In the blink of an eye, 5 days had passed. During these 5 days, Zhuowen had basically been in seclusion in the cave. Occasionally, he would use his divine sense to observe the surroundings. Just as the Divine Horn Protector had said, Area D was indeed the worst area of the Demon Saint Palace. According to his divine sense, the demon race in this area were basically all juniors with low cultivation bases and poor aptitude. These juniors were the lowest existences in the Demon Saint Palace. Every day, they had to do the most difficult and tiring work, but they received the worst resources. Coupled with their poor aptitude, their future was very bleak. And what Zhuowen saw most on the faces of these demon juniors was apathy. They had long been numbed by the life here. They were like walking corpses, doing the same things over and over again. On this day, Zhuowen's communication jade token lit up. It was a message from the Divine Horn Guardian. The God Horn Protector told Zhuowen that today was the day of the auction. However, he could not go to the auction with Zhuowen. The Great Protector strictly forbade Zhuowen from bidding at the auction. The God Horn Protector asked Zhuowen to be as careful as possible when he went to the auction and not give himself away. Chapter 3541. Before leaving the Demon Saint Palace, Zhuowen disguised himself. At the same time, he also sealed his cave abode in Area D with restrictions before leaving the Demon Saint Palace. Although the Spirit Phoenix Trading Company was also in the Demon Saint Heavenly City, it was in the opposite direction of the Demon Saint Palace. The Demon Saint Heavenly City occupied a large area, so it took Zhuowen several hours to arrive at the Spirit Phoenix Trading Company. As soon as he entered the Spirit Phoenix Trading Company, he saw from afar that there were many demon clan cultivators gathered in the Spirit Phoenix Trading Company. Zhuowen was startled. It seemed that he had underestimated the popularity of the auction this time. This Spirit Phoenix Trading Company probably gathered nearly half of the demon clan cultivators in the Demon Saint Heavenly City. Zhuowen paid a certain amount of Heavenly Tao origin crystals and entered the auction site. The auction this time was held in the largest pavilion of the Spirit Phoenix Trading Company. Originally, Zhuowen wanted to buy a VIP seat, but unfortunately, the VIP seats in the auction site were basically all reserved, so he had no choice but to enter the main hall and squeeze in with the many demon clan cultivators. It was said that those who could reserve a VIP seat were either great forces in the Demon Saint Heavenly City or great powerhouses with exceedingly high cultivation. Of course, with Zhuowen's identity, as long as he sent a message to the Spirit Phoenix Trading Company's Bailey Jingluan, then Bailey Jinglin would immediately arrange a VIP seat for him. However, Zhuowen didn't plan to do that. His only purpose in coming here was the item that could weaken the blight tribulation in this auction. At this moment, the huge main hall was practically packed with people. It was bustling with activity, and there wasn't even the slightest bit of extra space. Zhuowen frowned. The environment of this main hall was too bad, but he had no choice and could only endure it for now. At the same time, his divine sense also swept out and swept through the entire auction site. He discovered that most of the VIP seats in this auction house were half-step shattering heaven-tier cultivators. Although Zhuowen's divine sense was extremely unbridled, his spirit was too powerful and had long reached the peak of the fifth blight. If he didn't want others to discover him, there really wasn't anyone in this part of the galaxy who could discover his divine sense probing. And Great Guardian? All of a sudden, Zhuowen's divine sense stopped at one of the VIP seats. In this VIP seat, he actually saw a familiar red-faced old man. It was the great enforcer of the Demon Saint Palace. What surprised Zhuowen even more was that the Great Guardian wasn't the only one in the VIP seats. There were two other figures as well. Zhuowen didn't recognize these two figures. They were a middle-aged man with dark eyes and a young man with a pale face. Moreover, the young man was seated at the head of the VIP seats while the Great Protector stood beside the young man. His expression was cautious and his eyes were filled with respect. This great enforcer is second only to the Eastern Emperor Tai Yi in the Demon Saint Palace. His authority is monstrous. So why would he be so respectful to an ordinary-looking young man? Zhuowen was flabbergasted, feeling incredulous. Suddenly, Zhuowen discovered that the young man, who had been motionless, suddenly opened his eyes. A strange light burst out from his eyes. In this strange light, Zhuowen's divine sense was greatly shaken, as if it had been firmly grasped by some invisible hand. Zhuowen's heart trembled, and he hurriedly withdrew his divine sense. However, his expression didn't look too good. This pale-faced young man was definitely not a simple person. He seemed to have noticed his divine sense. Fortunately, Zhuowen withdrew his divine sense in time, so although the young man had noticed his divine sense, it was unrealistic for him to find the source of his divine sense. Zhuowen's heart was full of doubts. Just who was this young man that he could make the number 2 figure of the Demon Saint Palace be so cautious and respectful? What made Zhuowen even more curious was that the young man was actually able to notice the scanning of his divine sense. Such ability was absolutely extraordinary. At the very least, Zhuowen felt that no one in the starry sky could easily detect the tracks of his divine sense. However, this young man was able to detect something was wrong in such a short time. This made Zhuowen extremely wary. At this moment, in the VIP seats where the chief guardian was, the pale-faced young man frowned slightly. His gaze fell on the hall below as if he was searching for something. "Young Master Su Yuan, what's wrong?" The chief guardian asked in a deep voice when he saw the young man frown slightly as if he had something on his mind. "Nothing. I must have been thinking too much just now." The young man shook his head. He had just sensed a divine sense fluctuation pass by the VIP seats, but now that he carefully sensed it, he couldn't find anything. He even suspected that it was an illusion. "Chief Guardian, will there really be a profound sky-sea settling vine this time?" the young man asked lazily. The chief guardian smiled and said, "Young Master Su Yuan, don't worry. According to reliable news, the profound sky-sea settling vine will indeed appear in this auction. This news is absolutely true." "Good. The profound sky-sea settling vine is a supreme treasure of heaven and earth that can weaken the blight tribulation. If I can obtain this profound sky-sea settling vine, I won't have to fear the 4th blight tribulation. I can immediately transcend the tribulation and advance to the supreme fourth blight realm. The young man's eyes were bright, and his voice was filled with fervor. The auction was finally about to begin amidst the hubbub of bustling voices. Zhuowen didn't expect the host of this auction to be Spirit Phoenix trading firm's Bailey Chioling. He had to admit that Bailey Chioling was very eloquent. When she introduced the auction items, her expression and actions were perfect, attracting the gazes and thoughts of many cultivators. The first treasure is the early-stage Ascension Realm Divine Pill, the 7 Profound Meridian Connecting Pill. This pill's greatest effect is to help cultivators at the early-stage Ascension Realm and below clear the impurities in their meridians and expel them from the body. Thus, their meridians will be unblocked and their cultivation speed will be significantly increased. It's a rare divine pill. Bailey Chioling began to introduce the first auction item. As soon as she finished, the sound of bidding immediately rang out in the hall, rising and falling one after another. It was very lively. In the end, the 7 Profound Meridian Connecting Pill was sold for 1,300,000 high-grade, Heavenly Tao origin crystals. It was sold to an early-stage Ascension Realm cultivator in the hall. Zhuowen shook his head inwardly. This 7 Profound Meridian Connecting Pill was only an early-stage Ascension Realm Divine Pill, and its value was at most 700,000 to 800,000 high-grade, Heavenly Tao origin crystals. Now that it was auctioned, its value doubled. This was simply a huge profit. The following auction proceeded in an orderly manner. Many good items appeared, causing the crowd to boil with excitement, and the sound of bidding continued. Zhuowen, on the other hand, didn't bid from beginning to end. He had countless Heavenly Tao origin crystals on him, but he didn't plan to participate in the auction. He wanted to wait for the mysterious item that could weaken the blight tribulation to appear. His main goal in this auction was to obtain that item. In fact, during the auction, a half-step heaven breaker cultivation method appeared. Although it was somewhat incomplete, it still caused an uproar in the hall. Those in the VIP seats who had been silent all this time also began to participate in the auction, and the price of the half-step heaven breaker cultivation method was raised to an extremely terrifying height. The auction was quickly approaching its end. Suddenly, a palm-sized bronze cauldron appeared on the center stage. Chapter 3542. Soul-nourishing Pot Bailey Chioling held the cauldron and asked mysteriously, "Everyone, do you know the origin of this cauldron?" Bailey Chioling's question piqued everyone's curiosity. Many of them asked what was so special about the little cauldron. This cauldron was once used by the Pill Array Immortal Lord to refine divine pills. It's called the Minor Immortal Lord Cauldron. Its value is immeasurable, and it has great collection value. Bailey Chioling said calmly, "The Immortal Lord Cauldron? No way. Isn't it always in the Pill Array Immortal City? How could it be here? I was lucky enough to see it with my own eyes. It was so majestic that the world changed colors. How could it be like this?" Someone in the auction house questioned Bailey Chioling, thinking that she was fooling them. Bailey Chioling didn't panic. She smiled and said, "Didn't I tell you? It's called the Minor Immortal Lord Cauldron. You may not know, but this cauldron was used by the Pill Array Immortal Lord in his early years before he became famous. It's broken and can't be used now, but it has immeasurable collection value. If that fellow Taoist is interested, you can auction it off and keep it as a collection. The starting bid is 1 million high-grade Heavenly Law origin crystals. Each bid must be at least 10,000. Bailey Chioling's smile was a little awkward. She didn't understand. Although this was a cauldron used by the Pill Array Immortal Lord, it was still something he used in his early years. Moreover, it was so broken that it was almost useless. There was no other use for it except as a collection. She didn't want to auction it off or even lower the price, but the auctioneer clearly asked for this price. This made her feel a little helpless. As soon as Bailey Chioling finished speaking, the entire auction house was terrifyingly quiet. No one bid at all. The cultivators who came here were not fools. Naturally, they came to the auction house to buy something useful for their cultivation. This cauldron was so broken that it could only be used as a collection. Spending more than 1 million high-grade, heavenly law origin crystals just to buy a collectible was a little too extravagant. Bailey Chioling's expression became more and more awkward when no one bid. Her smile was a little forced. 1,010,000. Just when Bailey Chioling thought that no one would bid for the cauldron, a calm and hoarse voice rang out. Everyone's gazes converged on the owner of the bidding voice at this moment. They discovered that it was a middle-aged man with a yellow face. He was very unremarkable, and even his cultivation was very ordinary. Is there something wrong with this guy's head? He's giving away money to the auction house. This kind of useless thing has to be auctioned off. At the scene, there were many people who were secretly laughing at this yellow-faced middle-aged man. This yellow-faced middle-aged man was Zhuowen in disguise. His spiritual force was far more powerful than anyone present. Even Su Yuan's spiritual force couldn't compare to Zhuowen's. Therefore, when the small bronze cauldron was taken out, he had already investigated it thoroughly. This small bronze cauldron was indeed broken enough. It was almost impossible to refine a divine pill. Other than being ornamental, it was really useless. However, Zhuowen discovered a very obscure restriction inside the small cauldron. The restriction was very weak. Even an ordinary half-step divine formation master might not be able to detect it. Moreover, this small bronze cauldron had something to do with the formation pill master. Therefore, Zhuowen made up his mind to bid for the cauldron. He suspected that this small bronze cauldron must contain the secret of the formation pill master. He didn't want to let go of this possibility. As soon as Zhuowen's voice fell, almost no one bid. Zhuowen easily obtained the small bronze cauldron. After taking the small bronze cauldron, he didn't rush to undo the restriction inside the cauldron. Instead, he put it away and continued to wait in the auction house. Following that, the auction house brought out more and more precious items, and the bidding became more and more intense. In particular, many important figures in the VIP seats began to bid one after another. Clearly, even these important figures were tempted by the later items. On the other hand, although there were many Monster Clan cultivators in the main hall, and it was almost crowded, they all ceased bidding and didn't participate in the bidding for the later items. They also knew that the items that appeared in the later stages of the auction were too precious. The prices were also frighteningly high. It was not something they could afford. Therefore, compared to the heated bidding in the VIP seats, the spacious main hall was much quieter. This is the soul-nourishing pot. It's an ancient artifact. It contains a mysterious power that can nourish the soul. It has unimaginable benefits for the soul. Although it has been here for countless years and is now broken, it still has great benefits for the soul. The starting price of the soul-nourishing pot is 10 million heavenly law origin crystals. Each bid must not be lower than 100,000. The bidding starts now. Bailey Chioling took out a green porcelain pot. The surface of the pot was surging with misty green qi. The moment Zhuowen looked at the soul-nourishing pot, his eyes lit up. Such an item that nourished the soul was extremely rare. To think that such an item would be auctioned in this auction. Zhuowen possessed the tyrannical soul sword intent, a spirit attack technique. However, every time he condensed the soul sword intent, it would cause great damage to his soul. Even though his soul was modified by the primordial stone and became much stronger than before, the soul sword intent still caused great damage to his soul. He urgently needed some method to recover his soul. And this soul-nourishing pot was clearly suitable for his current situation. The moment the soul-nourishing pot appeared, those important figures in the VIP seats opened their mouths to bid. The price of the soul-nourishing pot was pushed to 20 million heavenly law origin crystals. The speed of this increase made everyone click their tongues. Zhuowen did not bid immediately. He was waiting for the right opportunity. When the price rose to 25 million, the bidding voices clearly quieted down. Clearly, the price of the soul-nourishing pot, rising to such an extent, already exceeded the budget of most cultivators. 30 million heavenly law origin crystals. This seat is the Wanzhong Poison King. I hope that fellow Taoists can give this soul-nourishing pot to this seat on account of my face. A dark and cold voice suddenly sounded from one of the VIP seats. The originally bidding voices also suddenly came to a halt. Clearly, there were quite a number of people in the other VIP seats who were extremely afraid of this so-called Wanzhong Poison King. It's actually the Wanzhong Poison King. This is the itinerant cultivator that's the hardest to provoke in the demon region. It's said that he's already second blight cultivation. Plus, he doesn't belong to any sect, so he doesn't have to worry about consequences at all when doing things. Whoever provokes this person will deal a killing blow to their juniors. He's a vicious and merciless half-step heaven-breaking realm powerhouse who stops at nothing. The surrounding people were quietly discussing, their expressions reverent. Zhuowen's eyes flickered, and he suddenly opened his mouth to bid. 31 million. The moment these words came out, the gazes of all the cultivators in the entire auction house landed on Zhuowen in the hall. Chapter 3543. There's actually such a courageous ant in the great hall. In the VIP seats where the great guardian was, the young Su Yuan sneered and glanced sideways at Zhuowen, who was in disguise in the lobby. He could tell at a glance that Zhuowen was in disguise, but he wasn't surprised. In the lobby of the auction house, most of the demon race cultivators were actually in disguise. After all, the lobby wasn't like the VIP seats. It had the function of blocking divine sense detection. As long as someone bid, they would become the focus of attention at a glance. It was difficult to hide their identity, so they naturally had to disguise themselves. In addition, the aura Zhuowen revealed was indeed very ordinary, so Su Yuan showed disdain. He felt that this person was really overestimating himself and was courting death. With Su Yuan's identity, he naturally didn't put the Wanzhong Poison King in his eyes. If it weren't for the fact that he didn't need the soul-cultivating pot, he would have bid long ago. How could the Wanzhong Poison King be so arrogant? Who are you? How dare you bid with me? The VIP seats where the Wanzhong Poison King was seated were initially silent. Soon after, the Wanzhong Poison King's dark and cold voice was emitted, accompanied by a terrifying aura. It instantly suppressed Zhuowen. Zhuowen's surroundings suddenly became much more spacious. Many demon race cultivators subconsciously distanced themselves from Zhuowen to avoid being implicated. Wanzhong Poison King, this is the Spirit Phoenix Trading Company. Private fights are not allowed here. The Wanzhong Poison King's terrifying aura was instantly shattered by a ripple of array Dao. There was actually a rather powerful, half-step, heaven-breaking array at the auction site. The Wanzhong Poison King frowned slightly, but didn't say anything. Although the Wanzhong Poison King was a second blight cultivator, and his cultivation was stronger than the Spirit Phoenix Trading Company's old ancestor, Bailey Jingluan, he was still a rogue cultivator. And this Spirit Phoenix Trading Company was not simple. There was a half-step heaven-breaking array in the trading company. If he acted recklessly, he was likely to be left here, and the gains would not make up for the losses. The reason why so many major powers were wary of this Poison King Wanzhong was mainly because this fellow was a rogue cultivator. If they offended such a powerful rogue cultivator, this fellow would pester them relentlessly and deal with the juniors of various powers. In any case, this guy did not belong to any sect or faction. He was a loner. If they really offended him, and their juniors were targeted by him, it would be a disastrous blow to every faction. Therefore, many major forces did not want to offend Wanzong Poison King. Although they were not afraid of Wanzong Poison King, he was still a big trouble. They would try their best to avoid offending him. Wanzong Poison King continued to bid 30,200,000. If anyone dares to bid against me, don't blame me for not showing mercy after this. This was a blatant threat, and it was directed at Zhuowen. Everyone thought that the yellow-faced middle-aged man would shrink back and stop bidding with Wanzong Poison King. Who would have thought that the middle-aged man would be so calm as he continued to raise the price by 100,000? This caused the Wanzong Poison King to explode in anger. You're very good. This Spirit Phoenix Trading Company isn't safe. If you don't pay attention after going out, it's very easy to lose your wife and your men. You won't even be able to save your life, Wanzong Poison King said as he stared fixedly at Zhuowen. Then you don't have to worry about it. Zhuowen replied indifferently. Humph. Wanzong Poison King snorted coldly and stopped bidding. Although he still had more Heavenly Tao origin crystals on him, this soul-cultivating pot's price already greatly exceeded his budget. He did not plan on fighting to the death with this hothead in the hall either. Furthermore, he had already made up his mind long ago. After this person left the auction house, he would immediately tail behind and then silence him to seize the soul-cultivating pot. This fellow Taoist, I wonder if you have enough Heavenly Tao origin crystals. After Zhuowen won the soul-cultivating pot, Bailey Choling stood on the stage and asked while looking at Zhuowen with a grin. Clearly, the Spirit Phoenix Trading Company doubted whether Zhuowen could afford this soul-cultivating pot's price. After all, a fellow who could not even reserve a VIP seat was not considered a well-known figure in their view. They did not believe that this person really had so many Heavenly Tao origin crystals on him. Zhuowen looked at Bailey Choling and discovered that the latter did not hit the transaction hammer for a long time. He knew that Bailey Choling wanted to test his purchasing power. If he could not take out so many Heavenly Tao origin crystals, Bailey Choling would very likely sell this soul-cultivating pot to Wanzong Poison King, and he might be arrested by the Spirit Phoenix Trading Company for cheating. Zhuowen took out a spirit ring and handed it to the staff member, who came down. That staff member checked it and nodded at Bailey Choling. This fellow Taoist, the soul-cultivating pot, is yours from now on. Bailey Choling smiled sweetly and hit the transaction hammer, and that staff member handed the soul-cultivating pot to Zhuowen. When Zhuowen took the soul-nourishing gourd, he sensed several spiritual consciousnesses on his body. Moreover, these divine senses did not have good intentions. Zhuowen put away the soul-cultivating pot and sneered in his heart. It seemed that he had become the target of many people. After this auction ended, it would not be easy for him to leave so easily. These malicious divine senses scanned Zhuowen's body and left a divine sense imprint on him before retracting their divine senses. Zhuowen's gaze was cold. It was too easy for him to remove the divine sense imprint on him, but he did not do so. The auction continued. The next few items were all extremely precious, and the bidding was extremely heated. The next item is the last item of this auction. A staff member walked to Bailey Choling with a tray covered by a red cloth. Bailey Choling's tone was rather excited as she spoke. Bailey Choling lifted the red cloth, and what appeared in front of everyone was a verdant vine. This vine was only the size of a palm and was planted in a small white porcelain pot. At first glance, it looked like an ordinary vine. However, If one were to take a closer look, they would be able to see that the surface of the vines was emitting extraordinary ripples. These ripples contained an extremely profound rhythm of laws. At this moment, the entire auction house was extremely silent. Even the drop of a needle could be heard. Everyone stared unblinkingly at the vine in Bailey Chioling's hand. This is the profound sky-sea settling vine. This is an item from the ancient era. As for what grade of treasure it is, it has not been determined yet. However, it has a very miraculous function, and that is when a half-step heaven-shattering cultivator is undergoing their blight tribulation. This item can effectively weaken the power of the blight tribulation and reduce the burden on the cultivator. Bailey Chioling's beautiful eyes lit up. Although she was far from being a half-step heaven-shattering cultivator, a treasure like the profound sky-sea settling vine was extremely tempting. She was no exception. It's actually the profound sky-sea settling vine. When the Spirit Phoenix trading firm advertised, they said that there would be a supreme treasure that could weaken the blight tribulation. I've always been curious about what it was. Who would have thought that it would actually be the profound sky-sea settling vine? I've only heard of this item in legends. I've never seen it before. Today, I'm actually seeing the real thing. Am I seeing things? The auction house quickly became noisy. Everyone was in an uproar. The starting price of the profound sky-sea settling vine is 30 million high-grade, heavenly Tao source crystals. Each bid must not be lower than 1 million. Bailey Chioling said, solemnly, 31 million, 35 million. Chapter 3544. Curtain drop, 70 million. All of a sudden, a clear voice sounded out. The originally noisy bidding suddenly became dead silent. One gaze after another landed on the source of this voice. This person was seriously too bold to actually raise the price by 20 million in an instant. Zhuowen looked at the VIP seats at the source of that voice, his eyes narrowing slightly. This VIP seat was precisely the VIP seat where Chief Protector was seated. And this voice clearly belonged to that young man sitting in the main seat of the VIP seats. Looks like this person's objective is this profound sky-sea calming vine. Zhuowen muttered to himself. Since the beginning of the auction until now, this young man hadn't bid a single time. But now, he bid such a high price in one go. Obviously, the objective of this trip was the dark sky ocean settling vine. The silence of the auction venue did not last for long. Bids sounded out once more. It was just that this time, the bidding voices were clearly much fewer. The price also rose very slowly. When the price rose to 75 million, that Su Yuan's voice sounded out once more. 100 million heavenly Tao origin crystals. The moment these words came out, everyone in the entire auction house sucked in a cold breath. 100 million high-grade heavenly Tao origin crystals. This amount was seriously too enormous. Even some major factions probably also found it hard to take out so many heavenly Tao origin crystals all at once. Who in the world was this person to actually call out such a crazy bid? Bailey Chioling was shocked too. She originally thought that this profound sky-sea calming vine's price being able to reach 80 million plus was already very heaven-defying. But she did not expect that the price directly soared to 100 million now, exceeding her expectations. Su Yuan stood in the VIP seats. When he saw that the surrounding people no longer had anyone bidding, the corners of his mouth revealed a hint of a smug smile. He knew that this profound sky-sea calming vine would be his soon. Are there any higher bids? If there aren't, this profound sky-sea calming vine will be this honored guest in VIP seat number 1 right away. Bailey Chioling was excited until her pretty face flushed red. Hoo-hoo, you can knock the hammer now. There shouldn't be anyone who will call out a higher price. Su Yuan was in a very good mood. opening his mouth to urge Bailey Chilling to knock the hammer. 100 million. This profound sky sea calming vine. I'm taking it for sure. Zhuowen said coolly. This sudden bid immediately caused the entire auction house to fall silent. Numerous gazes fell on Zhuowen once again. Everyone revealed looks of disbelief, because the person bidding was actually the yellow-faced, middle-aged man in the lobby. Everyone revealed surprised and bewildered expressions, suspecting that the yellow-faced, middle-aged man's identity was not ordinary. After all, this guy had just spent over 30 million Heavenly Tao origin crystals to buy the soul nurturing pot, and now he wanted to spend over 100 million to buy the profound sky sea settling vine. This wasn't just being rich and overbearing, it was practically being a spendthrift. Su Yuan's face stiffened, and the corners of his mouth twitched. He looked at Zhuowen with an unfriendly gaze, but didn't say anything. Instead, he raised the price to 110 million. The corners of Zhuowen's mouth curled up. He knew that Su Garden's financial resources were limited. Otherwise, it wouldn't have increased by so little. 111 million, Zhuowen said indifferently. You have guts. You actually dare to bid against me? Su Yuan's eyes were cold as he stared at Zhuowen. He couldn't help but speak. He had only brought 110 million with him this time. This was already his limit. Moreover, Su Yuan couldn't figure out how the yellow-faced, middle-aged man in the lobby was a wandering cultivator with mediocre cultivation. Where did this person get so many Heavenly Tao origin crystals? One had to know that even some powerful factions wouldn't be able to obtain over 100 million high-grade Heavenly Tao origin crystals, even if they sold their entire fortune. However, this guy who looked like a wandering cultivator actually casually called out such a price. It was truly inconceivable. Su Yuan returned to his seat, took a deep breath, and said coldly, "Chief Protector, investigate this person's origins for me." "Young Master Su Yuan, you don't plan on bidding?" The Chief Protector nodded and asked in surprise. Veins bulged on Su Yuan's forehead. "I don't have enough Heavenly Tao origin crystals on me. This one still has quite a few Heavenly Tao origin crystals on me. Young Master Su Yuan, you can—" The Chief Protector hurriedly said, "No need. This person dares to bid against me for the profound sky sea calming vine. At this moment, he's already a dead man, and his item will be mine next. There's no need to bid against him." Su Yuan leaned lazily in his chair, killing intent flashing in his eyes. Su Yuan's VIP seat did not bid again for a long time. Bailey Chilling finally dropped the gavel, and the profound sky sea calming vine was obtained by Zhuowen in the end. Zhuowen sighed lightly. Over 100 million Heavenly Tao origin crystals was a huge sum even to him. If it were before, he really might not be able to take out so many Heavenly Tao origin crystals. However, he had just obtained 10 supreme-grade Heavenly Tao origin crystal veins from the Thunderbolt trading firm. Each of those veins was worth over 10 million Heavenly Tao origin crystals. Those 10 supreme-grade Heavenly Tao origin crystals were probably worth over 100 million Heavenly Tao origin crystals. Zhuowen planned to use those 10 supreme-grade Heavenly Tao origin crystals to exchange for the profound sky sea calming vine. Fellow Taoist, the implications of your transaction are too great. Therefore, we must go inside to discuss in detail. Bailey Chilling looked at Zhuowen coquettishly. Zhuowen nodded and followed Bailey Chilling into the auction house without the slightest carelessness. And the auction also ended at this moment. The originally bustling hall became rather deserted at this moment. There were many figures moving about in the VIP seats. Although they had left their seats, they did not go far. Instead, they hid not far away from the Spirit Phoenix trading firm, waiting for Zhuowen to appear. The most precious item in this auction was the profound sky-sea calming vine. If this item was auctioned off by a major faction or superpower house, no one would have any improper thoughts. However, the one who auctioned off the profound sky-sea calming vine this time was actually just an unknown itinerant cultivator. Moreover, his strength was mediocre. Therefore, many people set their sights on Zhuowen. When Zhuowen entered the room, he discovered that apart from Bailey Chioling, there were several other figures standing in the room. One of them was very familiar to Zhuowen. It was the ancestor of the Spirit Phoenix trading firm, Bailey Jingluan. The others were all peak Empyrean masters. They should be the upper echelon of the Spirit Phoenix trading firm. I am Bailey Jingluan. I heard from my daughter that you bought the profound sky-sea calming vine for 111 million heavenly Tao origin crystals. May I know your name? Bailey Jingluan was the first to greet him. I am Nian Xue. I indeed bought the profound sky-sea calming vine. Zhuowen nodded. Chapter 35:45. No need to trouble yourself. Your Spirit Phoenix Trading Company plans to renege on your debt. Zhuowen frowned, his gaze calm. When Bailey Chioling had asked him to enter the room alone, he had already guessed, so he wasn't surprised at this moment. We don't want to renege on our debt, but to save your life. Fellow Taoist, do you know how many people covet this profound sky-sea settling vine? The honored guests in the VIP seats that have come to participate in the auction this time are basically all experts of various large forces. At the very least, they're elites at the peak of the heaven-piercing master realm, and there are also some elites that are half a step into the heaven-piercing realm. Are you sure you'll be able to walk out of the Spirit Phoenix Trading Company with the profound sky-sea settling vine? Bailey Jingluan's gaze was solemn as he looked at Zhuowen, his voice grave. Your Spirit Phoenix Trading Company is one of the 4 great trading companies of the demon realm, second only to the Demon Saint Palace. Could it be that your Spirit Phoenix Trading Company can't guarantee a smooth exit? Zhuowen sneered. Bailey Jingluan shook his head. Rumor has it that the 4 great trading companies are second only to the Demon Saint Palace. Do you really believe that? If that's true, then this old man's cultivation wouldn't be first blight, but second or even third blight. There are still some hidden factions in the demon realm, and these factions all have half-step heaven-piercing realm experts. There are even a few half-step heaven-piercing realm itinerant cultivators who obtained great fortuitous opportunities. For example, that Poison King Wanzong. Although he's an itinerant cultivator, he's a second blight expert. Our Spirit Phoenix Trading Company can't afford to offend him. Apart from that, there are also other hidden factions that our Spirit Phoenix Trading Company can't afford to offend. If you voluntarily give up the profound sky-sea settling vine, we'll auction it again, and you can also avoid death. This is the best of both worlds. Zhuowen's gaze revealed surprise. It seemed that the demon realm situation was far more complicated than the Xianmi heavenly domain and the primitive desolate heavenly domain. Although there were hidden factions in the Xianmi heavenly domain and the primitive desolate heavenly domain, no matter how strong they weren't as strong as those on the surface. However, the hidden factions of the demon realm seemed to be much stronger than the ones on the surface, and the 4 great trading companies were completely crushed. Seeing Zhuowen fall silent, Bailey Jingluan lightly sighed, knowing that Zhuowen was moved. As long as Zhuowen gave up on the profound sky-sea settling vine, their Spirit Phoenix Trading Company would be able to auction it off again. After all, if their Spirit Phoenix Trading Company were to give this treasure to an independent cultivator like this, it would easily arouse the displeasure of many powers. At that time, it would be difficult for their Spirit Phoenix Trading Company to be caught in the middle. Fellow Taoist Bailey, I bought this profound sky-sea settling vine with real money, so why should I return it to you? Your Spirit Phoenix Trading Company is afraid of those experts outside, but that doesn't mean that I, Nian Xue, am also afraid. Zhuowen said in a very calm tone. You're just an itinerant cultivator who hasn't even reached the half-step heaven-crushing stage. What right do you have to say something like that? You're simply overestimating your capabilities. Leave. To be calm. A middle-aged man standing beside Bailey Jingluan took a step forward and stared at Zhua when a powerful aura gushing out and crushing towards Zhuowen. This middle-aged man wasn't weak. He was a peak master of heaven ascension. He wanted to force Zhuowen to submit with his aura. After all, the lone cultivator before him was just an ant with mediocre cultivation, so he planned to use force. Bailey Jingluan frowned slightly, but didn't say anything to stop him. He couldn't just give the profound sky-sea settling vine to Zhuowen. It would cause a huge mess, and the Spirit Phoenix Trading Company would offend many people. Bailey Jingluan also doubted that this guy was just a lone cultivator. Could he really take out 111 million high-grade Heavenly Tao origin crystals? After all, the Spirit Phoenix Trading Company had been in business for so many years. Taking out so many things at once would be a huge blow. And this was the entire trading company, while this guy was just a person. Splat! Just as Bailey Jingluan was deep in thought, the middle-aged man suddenly sat on the ground and spat out a mouthful of blood, looking at Zhuowen in horror. At the same time, the entire room was filled with an extremely terrifying aura. It was suffocating. Bang! Bailey Jingluan, who had been sitting, had his chair directly shattered. He knelt on one knee on the ground, his breathing ragged and his expression terrified. Bailey Chioling and the others were even worse off. They directly lay on the ground and began to vomit blood. At this moment, everyone's minds were buzzing. They realized that the person before them was just a worthless lone cultivator. He was a peerless expert whose strength was far more terrifying than they had imagined. Sir, we were rude before. Please forgive us and spare our lives. Bailey Jingluan hurriedly knelt on the ground and kowtowed in apology. The others were all trembling. They were so suppressed by Zhuowen's powerful aura that they couldn't even speak. They were extremely terrified at this moment, cursing this person for pretending to be a pig to eat a tiger. At the same time, they were also extremely worried. With this person's terrifying strength, killing them would be as easy as flipping his hand. At this thought, they were filled with regret. They had actually pretended to be weak in front of such an expert. Wasn't that just courting death? Hand it over. I bid for the profound sky-sea calming vine, so I naturally have the right to have it. As for those fellows you mentioned who coveted my things, today I will make all those who provoked me disappear. You don't have to worry about that. Zhuowen shrugged and looked at Bailey Jingluan coldly. Bailey Jingluan's scalp went numb. He sighed softly and finally handed the profound sky-sea calming vine to Zhuowen. There are 10 tokens in this ring. They are supreme grade, Heavenly Tao origin crystal transfer tokens. They are worth more than 100 million, enough to bid for your profound sky-sea calming vine. Zhuowen tossed one of the rings to Bailey Jingluan and left the room. Bailey Jingluan didn't dare accept Zhuowen's things at first, but by the time he was about to speak, Zhuowen had already left. Bailey Jingluan sighed softly. He opened the ring and looked at it, finding it familiar. This is the Thunderbolt Trading Firm's transfer token? I know who this senior is. Bailey Jingluan's eyes narrowed as his gaze turned complicated. He hadn't expected this wandering cultivator to be that person. What he found strange was why that person hadn't sent him a message before coming. He would have prepared a VIP seat for him. Forefather, you know that person just now? Who is he? And he just went out like that. Isn't he afraid? After all, there are so many experts waiting for him outside. Bailey Chioling forced herself to stand up, still fearful. She couldn't help but ask curiously when she saw Bailey Jingluan's appearance. "You don't need to worry about this, senior. With this person's strength, those people outside really might not be able to kill him." Chapter 3546, Impersonation, and escape the moment Zhuowen walked out of the Spirit Phoenix Trading Company. Many divine senses landed on him. Furthermore, these divine senses were very unbridled and extremely brazen. And at the periphery of the Spirit Phoenix Trading Company, there were even many demon race cultivators gathered. These were mostly people in the auction house's lobby. When they saw Zhuowen come out, they very tacitly revealed pity on their faces. They were very clear that this yellow-faced, middle-aged man in front of them was finished. After all, this guy overestimated his ability, actually daring to bid for the profound sky-sea settling vine. This became a delicious cake in the eyes of those powerhouses in the VIP seats. A man's wealth is his own ruin. This person had no background and would eventually become the target of public criticism. It could be said that he was dead for sure. Trash, you finally came out. This seat warned you long ago. Not only did you not listen, you actually dared to snatch this seat's thing. This seat came here today to collect the debt. If you don't want to die, obediently hand over your spirit ring. A figure finally could not hold back and slowly came out from the dark. It was precisely that Wanzhong Poison King. This Wanzhong Poison King was dressed in a black robe, his face full of holes. His appearance could be said to be incomparably ugly. But this guy's aura was very powerful. He was actually an initial stage second blight powerhouse. Moreover, the moment this Wanzhong Poison King appeared, Zhuowen discovered that this guy had already secretly poisoned him. He was not unfamiliar with this poison. It was the 3,000 ecstasy incense, a poison that could instantly cause a cultivator's mind to become muddled. It was very effective on cultivators below half-step heaven-shattering realm. The auction clearly marks the price of things. The highest bidder gets it. I paid a higher price than you, and I got it. Why did it become snatching in your mouth? Zhuowen said calmly. Wanzhong Poison King's brows furrowed slightly. He sized up Zhuowen in surprise and bewilderment. He clearly secretly gave Zhuowen the 3,000 ecstasy incense. This guy should be unconscious now. Why was he still so awake? Quite bold. Since you won't hand it over today, then I can only make a move. After Wanzhong Poison King finished speaking, he decisively made a move. With a wave of his sleeve, poisonous fog suddenly spread out, covering the sky and earth as it enveloped Zhuowen, instantly drowning out Zhuowen's figure. As soon as the poisonous fog appeared, many of the surrounding demon clan cultivators had already retreated far away. Wanzhong Poison King's poison was very terrifying. They did not dare to touch this poisonous fog. Otherwise, they would not even know how they died. Many experts who were observing in the dark frowned secretly. This Poison King Wanzhong's poison fog actually had the ability to block spiritual sense. The moment their divine senses came into contact with the poisonous fog, they were all blocked outside. Now, they couldn't see clearly what was happening inside the poisonous fog. Within the poison fog, Poison King Wanzhong's eyes were cold as he rapidly closed in on Zhuowen. He had purposely released the poisonous fog in order to quickly get rid of Zhuowen. Then he would take the things on Zhuowen's body and escape immediately, whether it was the soul cultivating pot or the profound sky-sea settling vine. They were both supreme treasures. How could he let them go? Furthermore, even though this lone cultivator before him was weak, the fact that he was able to take out so many Heaven's Path origin crystals meant that he must have quite a few secrets on him. These things would all belong to him in the future. He died. You lone cultivator, Your strength is weak, but you are very arrogant. However, today I will let you see how great the price of arrogance is. After you go to the netherworld, you must remember that when you are not strong enough, don't act tough. Otherwise, you will only die too early. Poison King Wanzong had already found Zhuowen's figure in the poisonous fog. His right hand formed a claw and slammed towards Zhuowen's glabella, wanting to destroy him with one claw. Zhuowen stood where he was, ignoring the poisonous fog around him. He looked at Poison King Wanzong silently and grinned. Poison King Wanzong, what you said makes sense. When you are not strong enough, don't act tough. As he said that, Zhuowen struck out with a punch. It landed on the Poison King Wanzong's claw, causing it to burst apart. Poison King Wanzong screamed, his pupils constricted, and his face was filled with disbelief. How can this lone cultivator be so strong? This guy's aura is so weak. Soon, he felt a suffocating aura surging towards him. Then, he saw Zhuowen rushing towards him. You hid your cultivation before. You, Poison King Wanzong's pupils constricted. He felt fear and regret. The guy in front of him was a guy who pretended to be weak. He was much stronger than him. Uffed. Poison King Wanzong raised his other hand, wanting to block Zhuowen's next attack. Unfortunately, his defense was as weak as tofu and was easily destroyed by Zhuowen. His other hand was also shattered. Die. However, before you die, I advise you to open your eyes. There are some people that you can't afford to offend. Zhuowen's eyes were cold. He punched out and landed on Poison King Wanzong's glabella, penetrating it. Shattered divine energy surged out and entered the depths of Poison King Wanzong's glabella, crushing his spiritual soul and destroying his physical body. Poison King Wanzong didn't even have time to scream before his body and soul were destroyed in front of Zhuowen. However, before Poison King Wanzong was completely destroyed, Zhuowen took off all of Poison King Wanzong's equipment. After completely killing Poison King Wanzong, Zhuowen's entire body was covered in a hazy purple light. His body was changing, and in the end, he turned into an ugly man. It was the appearance of Poison King Wanzong. Zhuowen used the primordial chant to change his appearance. Whether it was appearance or aura, it was flawless. Ordinary people would find it difficult to tell that he was an imposter. After doing all this, Zhuowen put on Poison King Wanzong's black robe and wrapped himself tightly. Then, before the poison mist dissipated, he immediately flew into the distance. It's Poison King Wanzong. That Poison King Wanzong killed that rogue cultivator. And now he's running away with his things. The moment Zhuowen flew out of the poison mist, the surrounding demon clan cultivators immediately recognized him and started discussing. You want to eat it alone? Poison King Wanzong, you don't have such a big appetite. Many experts who were silently watching in the dark could no longer hold it in and chased after him. The poison mist had already dissipated. Other than the mess on the ground, there was nothing left. However, many of the demon clan cultivators present did not doubt that the rogue cultivator was completely dead. Moreover, his body and soul should have been destroyed. After all, this person was facing an expert like Poison King Wanzong. Young Master Su Yuan, should we chase after him too? In the dark, the great guardian frowned slightly. He looked at the young man beside him and asked in a deep voice, Great Guardian, you should return to the Demon Saint Palace. This Poison King Wanzong and the others are just slightly stronger ants to me. I'll take care of them myself. Also, when Dong Wang Tai comes out of seclusion, inform me immediately. You have to know that I came down from the upper realm completely because of your Dong Wang Tai. Otherwise, how could I come to the demon realm? After Su Yuan finished speaking, he placed his hands behind his back and took a step forward, instantly disappearing on the spot. The great guardian bowed deeply to Su Yuan's departing figure, and his eyes revealed a look of dread. Although Su Yuan's cultivation was only at the peak of the third blight, his identity was not ordinary. Even the master of the Demon Saint Palace, Dong Huang Tai, would have to treat this person with caution. Chapter 3547. You're a thief. Zhuowen's speed was extremely fast, and he quickly left the Spirit Phoenix Trading Company's territory. Moreover, he found that many cultivators from the Spirit Phoenix Trading Company followed closely behind him. Of course, after a chase, Zhuowen shook off most of the cultivators. Now, there were only 3 people following him closely. These 3 people were very strong, and they were all third blight powerhouses. The young man Zhuowen saw in the VIP seats where the Great Protector was at the auction house was also among them, and he was the fastest among the 3. Zhuowen always felt that this young man was very unusual. Back then, even the Great Protector, a 4th blight powerhouse, didn't notice his divine sense, but this young man seemed to have noticed it. And for some reason, this young man gave Zhuowen a feeling that he didn't belong to this universe. He seemed a little out of place. This feeling was somewhat similar to Bing Hui, who chased him back then. Bing Hui was from the Ghost Clan in the 100 Territories. Could it be that this person was also from the 100 Territories? In addition to this young man, the other 2 were an old woman and a middle-aged man. These 2 people's cultivation were also at the peak of the third blight. Their demonic chi soared into the sky, and they should be peerless masters from the hidden sects of the demon realm. Zhuowen was only using 50% of his speed. If he increased his speed to the maximum, he could immediately shake off the 3 of them. However, Zhuowen didn't do so. These 3 people were all fat sheep, since they had delivered themselves to his door. Zhuowen naturally didn't intend to let them go. Moreover, his current identity was the Wanzhong Poison King. Everything he did had nothing to do with him. It was all done by the Wanzhong Poison King. Since there was already someone to take the blame, Zhuowen naturally wouldn't hide it. Soon, the 4 people, 1 chasing and 1 escaping, left the demon divine heavenly city and came to a ruined space in the demon realm. When the 3 saw Zhuowen stop, they all showed a surprised expression. They didn't expect this person to stop running. The 3 quickly spread out and were on guard against each other. They didn't immediately attack. After all, the 3 of them each had their own ulterior motives and were not on the same boat. Naturally, they had to guard against each other. Wanzhong Poison King, I didn't expect your movement technique to be so impressive. I've been chasing you for so long, but I still haven't caught up to you. I've underestimated you. However, you also know that although your strength is not bad, facing a great hidden sect like our Divine Peng sect, it's still not enough. I will give you a chance. I don't want anything from you. As long as you give me the profound sky-sea settling vine, I will represent the Divine Peng sect to protect your life. Among the 3 individuals, the middle-aged male spoke, declaring how powerful the Divine Peng sect behind them was, that they could completely protect Zhuowen, that his life would not be in danger. Zhuowen pondered inwardly. It looked like this Divine Peng sect was one of the hidden forces of the demon realm. And from this middle-aged man's words, he knew that this Divine Peng sect was not ordinary. At the very least, they had quite a few elites half a step into shattering heaven tier. What is the Divine Peng sect? Our Golden Silk sect is stronger than your Divine Peng sect. Poison King of Wanzhong. If you want to find a strong backer, join our Golden Silk sect. However, you have to give me your spirit rings. Only then will I be able to protect your life. The old woman was very arrogant. She looked at the middle-aged man with disdain. Of course, her conditions were even harsher. She directly wanted Zhuowen's spirit rings and all the good things on him. Zhuowen stood calmly and directly ignored the middle-aged man and the old woman. Instead, he looked at the youth and asked indifferently, "What's your background? Do you want to be like these two, rely on the force behind you to protect my life, and then want all the things on me?" The middle-aged man and the old woman looked at the youth at the same time with vigilance. The two of them were both from large hidden forces and knew each other very well. However, this young man who had suddenly appeared was a new face to them, and this young man was also a peak third blight cultivator. This shocked them and made them feel dread. The youth grinned, but that smile was filled with a sinister meaning. He continued, Su Yuan, don't like to compromise. The profound sky-sea settling vine on you was originally mine, but you overestimated yourself and stole it from me. In my eyes, you're a thief. And I never tolerate thieves. In my eyes, thieves must die, and then their things will be returned to their owners. Of course, if you want a quick death, then there is only one choice, and that is to obediently hand over the profound sky-sea settling vine, kneel before me, and kill yourself as an apology. Su Yuan's voice was calm, but filled with a sinister viciousness. Zhuowen said indifferently, "You mean that even if I give you the profound sky-sea settling vine, you'll still kill me?" Su Yuan calmly said, "I said that you're a thief. You stole something that should be mine, so you can only apologize with your death. That's your final destination." "Ha ha, I think you're out of your mind. I bought this profound sky-sea settling vine with real money. You didn't get it, which means you don't have the ability. How can you blame it on me?" Zhuowen sneered. Su Yuan didn't continue to argue with Zhuowen. Instead, he looked at the old woman and the middle-aged man and said, "The two of you can scram. There's only one outcome for interfering in my business, and that is to die a horrible death." As soon as Su Yuan said this, the old woman and the middle-aged man widened their eyes and looked at Su Yuan in disbelief. Did water enter this fellow's head? He actually told them to scram and even threatened them in front of them. If this person was a fourth blight powerhouse, they might really scram. But this fellow's cultivation was the same as theirs, only at the peak of the third blight. He actually shouted in front of them. Wasn't this a bit too arrogant? Zhuowen also revealed a surprised expression. This Su Yuan was indeed a bit arrogant. They were both at the peak of the third blight, but this Su Yuan was so sure that he could easily kill the old woman and the middle-aged man. "Fellow Taoist, what do you mean by this? You actually want us to scram. What right do you have?" The middle-aged man from the Godpung sect looked at Su Yuan with an unfriendly gaze. His aura surged and killing intent surged. The old woman's expression was unsightly as well. Her eyes were filled with terrifying killing intent as she stared coldly at Su Yuan. Su Yuan's disdainful expression seriously provoked the old woman and the middle-aged man, and they both wanted Su Yuan to give them an explanation. "Noisy, you're like two animals shouting in front of me. It's really annoying," Su Yuan said coldly. "Humph, you're courting death. You actually dared to insult the two of us like this. Today, I'll let you taste the taste of despair." The middle-aged man couldn't restrain himself, and he took a step forward and directly flashed towards Su Yuan. At the instant the middle-aged man flashed out, his entire figure transformed, and he finally transformed into an enormous golden bird. It was actually a golden-winged roc. On the other hand, the old woman didn't make a move. She just watched coldly. At the same time, she set up a confinement killing formation in the surroundings to trap Zhuowen first. The old woman's level in the formation Dao wasn't bad, and it had actually reached the level of ascension stage. However, this sky-piercing death trap formation was not worth mentioning to Zhuowen. He could break it with a wave of his hand. However, Zhuowen didn't do so. Instead, he silently set up his own half-step ascension stage grand formation inside the confinement killing formation. He had a feeling that Su Yuan wasn't simple. He didn't dare to underestimate him and needed to treat him seriously. Chapter 3548. The powerful Su Yuan stood in place with a sneer on his face. It was as if he didn't care about the old woman and the middle-aged man at all. Whoosh! The golden winged rock was extremely fast. With a sharp golden light, it arrived in an instant. Its huge claw slashed through the air and grabbed at Su Yuan's head. This claw was extremely powerful and was like a rising golden sun. It was enough to shatter Su Yuan's head. Puchi! Su Yuan suddenly threw out a punch. The fist and claw collided, and then the golden winged rock's huge golden claw directly exploded. The golden winged rock let out a miserable shriek. It suddenly flapped its wings and began to fly away from Su Yuan. Since you're here, then don't leave. The sneer on Su Yuan's face became even more intense. He stomped his feet, and his entire aura changed. If Su Yuan was just an ordinary peak third blight cultivator, then he was now a towering mountain that was difficult to climb. He firmly suppressed the golden-winged rock. Oh shit! Is this guy really a peak third blight cultivator? This aura? Isn't it too terrifying? The golden-winged rock felt Su Yuan's aura suddenly increase, and its heart sank. It suddenly spread its wings and wanted to increase its speed and leave Su Yuan. Unfortunately, Su Yuan had already charged out. His speed was simply unimaginable, and he instantly landed on the golden-winged rock. Puchi! Su Yuan's feet suddenly landed on the golden-winged rock's back. A terrifying energy exploded, causing the golden-winged rock to spit out a mouthful of blood. Its back was covered in blood. It was a tragic sight. Then, Su Yuan grabbed the golden-winged rock's golden wings and ruthlessly tore them off. A terrifying power exploded, and the wings were torn apart like paper. Ah, my wings? The golden-winged rock screamed and fell. Golden blood scattered across the starry sky as it continued to wail. Su Yuan's right hand reached into the golden-winged rock's back and actually pulled out its spine. Ah, kill me! The golden-winged rock was about to faint from the pain. He knew that Su Yuan was far stronger than him and that he would definitely die. Therefore, he began to beg for death so that he could suffer less pain. Su Yuan sneered and took out a golden millstone. She threw the golden-winged rock into the millstone. Puchi! Puchi! The moment the golden-winged rock was thrown into the millstone began to spin. The golden-winged rock's body was slowly ground into powder by the millstone, turning into golden blood and debris. Finally, it flowed into the jade bucket below the millstone. The golden-winged rock's body was slowly crushed and turned into a bloody pulp. The pain was simply too terrifying. The golden-winged rock screamed again and again. It begged Su Yuan for mercy so that it could die. Su Yuan completely ignored the golden-winged rock's pleas for mercy. Instead, she looked at the white snake that the old woman had transformed into. When the old woman saw that the golden-winged rock was easily defeated, she stopped. At that moment, her eyes were filled with horror. She did not expect Su Yuan to be so powerful. The golden-winged rock was so easily disposed of. Su Yuan, I don't care where you came from. It's definitely not wise to offend God Peng sect and Golden Silk sect at the same time. As the old woman spoke, she turned into a white beam and disappeared from the spot with a whoosh. Su Yuan laughed heartily. Suddenly, she summoned a large golden net. The old woman, who was originally fleeing, was instantly trapped by the net and pulled in front of Su Yuan. Do you think you can escape? Get in. Su Yuan sneered and threw the white snake into the millstone. Ah, ah, ah. The old woman continued to scream. Her voice was too miserable, and her huge snake body was constantly being ground into bloody dregs. When Zhuowen saw the miserable state the middle-aged man and the old woman were in, he frowned slightly. He looked at the golden millstone with a shocked expression. The millstone's aura was actually very similar to the 9 Tribulations sword formation on his body, although its aura was far less terrifying than the 9 Tribulations sword formation. It was far more powerful than a half-step heaven-breaker divine artifact. Zhuowen's gaze was serious. He knew that the golden millstone was definitely a heaven-breaker divine artifact. Although the golden net that Su Yuan had just taken out was not a heaven-breaker divine artifact, it was still a half-step heaven-breaker divine artifact. Otherwise, it would not have been able to trap the old woman so easily. This person is definitely not a cultivator from this galaxy. Zhuowen's gaze became very serious. He knew very well that there was no heaven-breaker divine artifact in this galaxy. There was probably not even a complete heaven-breaker cultivation technique. However, this person had a heaven-breaker divine artifact and could use it skillfully. This could only mean that this person came from the 100 domains outside the realm. Could this person be from the alternate ghost clan? Zhuowen's expression was vigilant. He had a rough understanding of the 100 domains outside the realm, but that was all. Moreover, in the 100 domains outside the realm, he had only made enemies with the alternate ghost clan, so he subconsciously thought that this Su Yuan in front of him was from the alternate ghost clan. As expected, this is the lower realm's starry sky. Even a half-step heaven-breaker cultivator is so weak. This blood essence is even incomplete, so it's of limited help to me. Su Yuan casually poured a cup of blood water from the jade bucket below the millstone, tasted it, and muttered to herself in displeasure. At this moment, the golden-winged Great Peng and the white snake in the millstone were not dead yet. 1/3 of their bodies had already been ground into pieces. At this moment, when they saw that Su Yuan was actually criticizing their blood essence, they could not help but feel a chill. They had also tried to abandon their bodies and escape with their souls, but it was impossible. This was because there was a mysterious power in this golden millstone that actually firmly imprisoned their bodies and souls. As for them, they could only watch helplessly as their bodies were ground into dust. "You're not a cultivator from this galaxy? Who are you?" The old woman noticed Su Yuan's words and could not help but ask in fear. "Dead people don't need to know so clearly." Su Yuan replied indifferently, and then he looked at Zhuowen, who was within the confinement slaughter formation, and said, "Poison King Wanzhong, now you know what kind of existence you're facing, right? Kneel down obediently, hand over everything you have, and kill yourself before me. This way, you can suffer less pain." "Which clan of the 100 domains outside the realm are you from?" Zhuowen suddenly asked. Su Yuan, who was originally calm and composed, completely lost his composure. His pupils constricted into needles as he stared fixedly at Zhuowen, and he said in a low voice, "How do you know of the 100 domains outside the realm?" Su Yuan was indeed shocked. He was very clear that the starry sky he entered had not been born for many eras, and the cultivators here were still ignorant. It was utterly impossible for them to know of the 100 domains outside the realm, let alone a single heaven-breaker expert that had entered the 100 domains outside the realm. Even the Eastern Emperor Tai and Chief Protector only knew that there was an even larger world like the 100 domains outside the starry sky because he told them. Chapter 3549. Su Yuan was silent for a moment. He stared coldly at Zhuowen and said, "Who are you?" Su Yuan didn't believe that a mere itinerant cultivator from the lower realm would know about the 100 territories and even know that there were clans in the 100 territories. "Isn't it important who I am? As long as you don't provoke me, you go your way and I go mine. Nothing will happen between us." Zhuowen said indifferently. Su Yuan sneered and said, although I'm very curious as to why you know about the 100 territories, an ant like you isn't qualified to make me retreat. Moreover, because you know more, you must die. Of course, I will gladly accept the things on your body. Speaking of this, Su Yuan waved his right hand, and the golden millstone nearby sped up. The old woman and middle-aged man let out tragic cries before their bodies and souls were destroyed and ground into pieces. Of course, Su Yuan accepted the spirit rings of the old woman and middle-aged man without batting an eyelid. Su Yuan put away the golden millstone and took a step forward, instantly arriving in front of Zhuowen. He waved his right hand, and the heaven-piercing trap and kill formation set up by the old woman collapsed inch by inch. Meanwhile, Su Yuan stepped in front of Zhuowen and threw a punch at Zhuowen's face. Zhuowen didn't dare to be careless. The moment Su Yuan stepped in front of him, he quickly retreated and activated the half-step heaven-piercing trap and kill formation he had set up. Half-step heaven-piercing trap and kill formation? When did you set it up? Su Yuan's expression changed slightly. He immediately felt the terrifying killing intent around him, and this power instantly swept towards him, wanting to completely tear him into pieces. Su Yuan was very strong, but he was too careless. As soon as the killing intent swept over, he was hit. His body exploded into a bloody mist, and he spat out a mouthful of blood. His expression changed greatly. He discovered that this was no ordinary half-step heaven-breaching trap and kill formation. Instead, it was a top-tier half-step heaven-breaching trap and kill formation. Even a fifth blight cultivator would find it difficult to escape from such a top-level trap and kill formation. Although Su Yuan was strong, in a one-on-one fight, there was still a gap between him and a fifth blight cultivator in the lower realms. In just an instant, Su Yuan's 4 limbs were crushed by the killing intent of the confinement killing array. However, Su Yuan's reaction was very fast. The moment his 4 limbs were crushed, he had already taken out the golden millstone. The golden millstone floated above Su Yuan's head, emitting a dazzling golden light. The killing intent in the surroundings dissipated into nothingness the moment it touched the golden light on the surface of the golden millstone. Su Yuan hid under the golden millstone. Her breathing was rapid, and her forehead was covered with cold sweat. At this moment, his shattered limbs were slowly recovering. Just now, he had been hit head-on by this top-notch confinement killing formation, and his injuries had already reached a terrifying degree. I was careless. I didn't expect you to be a half-step heaven breaker divine formation master, and you even dared to trick me. In the process of recovering, Su Yuan looked at Zhuowen, who was not far away from the confinement killing formation, with murderous intent surging in his eyes. He had never suffered such a big loss before, especially after coming to the lower realms. He had a heaven breaker divine artifact, as well as many top-notch divine artifacts, which allowed him to look down on everyone here. Even if a fifth blight cultivator came, they would most likely suffer under his hands. But now he actually suffered a loss, and it was at the hands of a mere second blight cultivator. This was an unbearable humiliation for Su Yuan. Zhuowen frowned slightly. He looked at the golden millstone above Su Yuan's head and thought that this thing was indeed a heaven breaker divine artifact. Its power was extraordinary and powerful. He was very clear that if Su Yuan wasn't recovering, the power of this golden millstone was enough to completely destroy the confinement killing formation he had set up. Bastard, just you wait. When I recover from my injuries, it will be the time of your death. Su Yuan sneered. With the golden millstone in hand, he was very confident. Although he couldn't unleash all the power of the golden millstone, even a little bit of its power was enough to be invincible in this starry sky. And this guy who dared to trick him was already a dead man in his eyes. Su Yuan, you think you're the only one who has a heaven-breaker divine artifact. Zhuowen's lips curled into a mocking smile. Then, he activated one of the divine swords of the 9 Tribulations sword formation from his great world. Whoosh! The 9 Tribulations divine sword emitted a bright 9-colored light as it swept out of Zhuowen's great world and appeared in the starry sky. The terrifying sword Qi spread through the sky, and the starry sky within hundreds of millions of miles was affected by this terrifying sword Qi. It collapsed into countless pieces, becoming a terrifying and dangerous place. Bang! The 9 Tribulations divine sword swept out in an instant and landed on the golden millstone. With a ding sound, the golden millstone was shaken by the 9 Tribulations divine sword. The dazzling golden light on its surface was actually much dimmer than before. Zhuowen's face was pale. The 9 Tribulations sword formation had a total of 9 divine swords. It was already so strenuous for him to activate just one of them. If all 9 swords were to be used together, he would probably be exhausted to death before he could even kill the enemy. However, he had already made great progress. It should be known that when he first obtained the 9 Tribulations sword formation, he was injured just by touching the sword Qi. Now that his cultivation was much higher than before, he could barely withstand the terrifying sword Qi of the 9 Tribulations divine sword. Bang! 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 In just an instant, the 9 Tribulations divine sword was bombarded dozens of times by the golden millstone. Each time, the surrounding starry sky collapsed, and the laws were in chaos. Under the bombardment of the 9 Tribulations divine sword, the golden light around the golden millstone became dimmer. Of course, the 9 Tribulations divine sword also became much weaker. At least, the sword Qi wasn't as strong as before. What? You actually also have a heaven breaker divine weapon? The aura of your divine weapon actually surpasses the first level. Could it be a heaven breaker divine weapon of the second level? The moment Su Yuan saw Zhuowen's 9 Tribulations divine sword, it was as if he had seen a ghost and shouted loudly. He indeed felt that it was inconceivable. How could someone in a mere lower realm possess heaven breaker divine weapon? Could it be that this person's identity also came from the 100 outer realms? Suddenly, such a thought appeared in Su Yuan's mind, and it became more and more firm. Otherwise, how could this person know about the 100 outer realms and have a heaven breaker divine weapon? One should know that his golden millstone was only a heaven breaker divine weapon of the first level. It was far from a heaven breaker divine weapon of the second level. If he continued to fight with this Zhuowen, he would definitely be at a disadvantage. Zhuowen also discovered that the 9 Tribulations divine sword was indeed stronger than the golden millstone. He faintly guessed that the level of this golden millstone was even lower than the 9 Tribulations divine sword. It should be a heaven breaker divine weapon of the first level. The 9 Tribulations sword formation was a sword formation formed by 9 heaven breaker divine swords. Its power was comparable to a heaven breaker divine weapon of the second level. However, he couldn't control the sword formation. The 9 Tribulations divine sword that he was controlling now was actually not a heaven breaker divine weapon of the second level. It was also a heaven breaker divine weapon of the first level. Chapter 3550. Primal Providence. Fellow cultivator, you must also be from the 100 domains, right? I'm Su Yuan from Huxley. Seeing as we're from the same place, let's stop here. Su Yuan hurriedly said. Zhuowen's eyes flashed. It looked like Su Yuan had also assumed that he was from another clan that had descended from the 100 domains. However, this wasn't surprising. His cultivation level wasn't high, but his strength was freakishly powerful. coupled with the fact that he possessed a heaven-breaker divine tool, it was no wonder that Su Yuan would have such thoughts. Why have you descended to this lower realm? Zhuowen's eyes flashed. He didn't admit or deny it. Instead, he changed the topic. He already felt a sense of danger. Many clans from the 100 Domains had already noticed this region of space. First, it was the alternate ghost clan's Bing Hui. Now it was Huxley's Su Yuan. When Bing Hui had descended, he had only come for Sakyamuni. Then, why had Su Yuan come? If true elites from the 100 Domains descended in the future, then this region of space would really be finished. There would be no way to reverse the situation. Don't tell me you don't know why I've come down? Your clan probably sent you down to collect the primal providence, right? You have to know that there are fewer and fewer ownerless starry sky fruits in the primordial Hong tree. This starry sky fruit has only been nurtured for a short period of time, so many clans haven't noticed it. Moreover, no heaven breaker cultivators have been born in this region of space, so it's a good opportunity to make a move. Since your clan has also discovered this starry sky fruit, our two clans can join forces and share the primal providence of this starry sky fruit. Su Yuan had already determined that Zhuowen was from one of the clans in the 100 territories, so he didn't hide anything and spoke of his purpose in coming down. Zhuowen frowned. He had no idea what the so-called primal providence was. However, he could see from Su Yuan's eyes that this primal providence was definitely not ordinary. Moreover, it was also a very precious treasure to the elites of the 100 Domains. Huxley is so kind to share the primal providence with us. Zhuowen sneered. He wanted to get more information from Su Yuan. Su Yuan shrugged helplessly and said, "It's Huxley's good fortune to be able to discover this primitive starry sky in advance. As you know, Huxley is at the bottom of the 100 territories. We can't afford to offend the other clans. Since you've already discovered it, fellow Taoist, this matter definitely can't be hidden from the upper echelons of your clan. Rather than fighting with you and exposing the secret of this place, I'd rather share the secret with you. This way, everyone will have meat to eat." At this point, Su Yuan looked at Zhuowen and said in a deep voice, "After talking for so long, I still haven't asked which clan you're from." "I come from the Xuanong clan," Zhuowen replied indifferently. Currently, he only knew of 3 clans in the 100 territories of the Outer Realm. They were the Xuanong clan, the Otherworldly Ghost clan, and the Heartless clan. He had only just learned about the Hushu clan. The reason why he knew about these 3 clans was naturally because the tool spirit of the heaven-splitting axe had told him that these 3 clans had joined forces to destroy the Pangu clan. They were the great enemies of the Pangu clan. Now that Su Yuan asked about it, Zhuowen naturally casually mentioned a clan. "I didn't expect fellow Taoists to come from the Xuanong clan. Fortunately, it was just a misunderstanding between us." When Su Yuan heard about the Xuanong clan, his eyes were full of fear, but at the same time, he was glad. Obviously, the Xuanong clan should be much stronger than Huxley behind Su Yuan. Otherwise, Su Yuan would not show such a fearful expression. "Fellow Taoist, can you remove the trap and kill a ray first, and then we can discuss the matter of cooperation?" Su Yuan was still shrouded in the light of the golden millstone. His face was pale as he looked at Zhuowen and forced a smile. "I'll remove the trap and kill a ray." Zhuowen nodded and simply removed the trap and kill a ray around them. Seeing that the trap and kill a ray was removed, Su Yuan breathed a sigh of relief and looked relaxed. Just as he was about to ask Zhuowen to put away the 9 Tribulations celestial sword, the 9 Tribulations celestial sword suspended in the air suddenly turned into an arc and hit the golden millstone. At the same time, Zhuowen took out another 9 Tribulations celestial sword from the macro world and fell on the golden millstone from another direction. The golden millstone was already an arrow at the end of its flight. Now, under the joint attack of the two nine tribulations' celestial swords, many cracks appeared on its surface. Puff! Su Yuan spat out a mouthful of blood and flew backward. The golden millstone had already lost its luster and was thrown aside. It was no different from an ordinary millstone. You didn't keep your word. Su Yuan roared angrily and condemned Zhuowen. However, not long after Su Yuan finished speaking, a beam of sword light shot over, instantly slicing off his newly reconstructed arms from the shoulders. Zhuowen slowly walked to the side of the severed arms. With a flip of his right hand, he took out a talisman from the palm of one of the arms. He held the talisman in his hand and waved it in front of Su Yuan. He sneered and said, "It's not that I didn't keep my word. It's you who didn't keep your word. On one hand, you said that you wanted to cooperate with me, and on the other hand, you tried to stall for time to activate the talisman in your hand. I really feel tired of cooperating with a guy like you who only pays lip service." Su Yuan's four limbs were cut off again. He lay on an abandoned meteorite and looked at the talisman in Zhuowen's hand, his face extremely pale. Zhuowen's divine sense was very powerful. When Su Yuan was secretly playing tricks, Zhuowen's divine sense had already detected it. So he quickly took action. "Fellow Taoist, it was my fault just now. I was possessed. How about this? We continue to cooperate and let bygones be bygones. Moreover, I will definitely give you more primordial luck in the distribution of primordial luck." Su Yuan hurriedly said, "Forget it. I will find the primordial luck on my own. As for you, I won't cooperate with you." As Zhuowen spoke, his right hand clasped the back of Su Yuan's head and suddenly pulled out his divine soul. "Fellow Taoist, what are you doing?" Su Yuan's divine soul was in a panic and constantly shouted. However, Zhuowen was too lazy to pay attention to him. He imprisoned his divine soul and threw it into the great world. When Zhuowen extracted Su Yuan's divine soul, he found that there was a very powerful imprint in his divine soul. If Su Yuan's divine soul was destroyed here, he was afraid that the expert behind Huxley would immediately know. Moreover, now wasn't the time to kill Su Yuan. He still had a lot of questions that he hadn't solved. He could only find out from Su Yuan, especially the primordial luck. He always felt that the primordial luck was very important to their universe. If it was stripped away by the experts of the 100 domains, it would definitely be a disaster for the universe. It's time to find a place to transcend the tribulation. Zhuowen's eyes flickered, and he instantly left the place. The purpose of this auction was to buy the mysterious sky sea settling vine. Now that he had obtained it, he naturally couldn't wait to transcend the tribulation and advance to the third blight.